a officer in a corporation of Mapleview Farms that's a neighboring landowner on that one, so I declare a conflict on that one. And also 5.6.1, the Burnett Municipal Drain. I own land personally that drains into that drain, so I'll declare conflict on that, as well as 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Johnston. Deputy Mayor Callum, do we have... Okay, so we're apparently having some audio problems to the YouTube feed as well. It's being troubleshot. Okay, I'm told the audio is on now. That's good. So we've troubleshot that problem. And the camera is working now as well, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. Video, so that people don't have to stare at the side of my face and can see me face on, often nose down. Right. Next step. Deputy Mayor Callum, have we had any success with your microphone? He's saying no. Okay, so maybe Doug, you can use the telephone dial-in for this call that was probably provided in the credentials. I can note that Deputy Mayor Callum has declared in writing perceived pecuniary interest in items 5.4.1 and item 13.1. And this is a function of him having the older generation of living in Perth, which is municipal. Okay, so are there any further declarations of conflict of interest before we move on? Okay, seeing none, and Doug, we hope you can catch up with us on the audio side. We're looking forward to that. Then let's move on to explain our virtual processes. For councillors, this is going to seem like a repeat that happens every meeting, but not everyone has tuned in before, so we need to share the important information. Our virtual processes, I will be systematically trying to seek consent from various councillors as movers and seconders, the various resolutions and bylaws that will be put before us tonight. I will do this to some degree alphabetically. Sometimes I mess up. Should a councillor not wish to respond to the request, they may say so, and I will move on to the next name in the alphabetical list. I will try to remember who has declared pecuniary interest as we come to those points. Regarding speaking to our business, councillors tonight will identify themselves through our conference technologies chat function. The clerk is assisting me in maintaining the speaking order from that source. Councillors are allowed on their turn to deliver a primary question or comment and may make one supplemental question or comment. We will follow the speaking order carefully, and any councillor wishing to have a second say will have to indicate again and go to the bottom of the list. This is a normal procedure consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. Councillors are reminded that if I believe you're not audible, as you've heard me with Deputy Mayor so far in this meeting, I will call on you. You do not need to ask if you can be heard. I'll let you know. I further ask all who are in attendance, including our delegates and representatives for various items, to maintain a mute state in the web conference until I have called on you for a verbal reaction. Should any of your votes not show up in our voting software, eScribe, I will call on you when things seem stalled to register a manual vote. At time, take yourself off mute, answer yes or no on the motion, then return to mute. Therefore, now let us turn to item 2.2 on our agenda. I have a motion before me for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows, that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to be our mover for that?
Yes, I would so move. Thank you, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder for that?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, please indicate in the chat window. And the clerk is saying no indication of same, so let's have the vote on this motion. Councillor Johnston, we're not recording your vote. What say you?
Yes, I'm in favor.
And Deputy Mayor Kellum, do we have you connected yet? He's saying a yes as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. There you are, Doug.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Perfect. I'm still trying to get in. Yes, I'm in favor. Thank you.
okay,
But just
so that is carried.
I can't record. I'm trying to get on.
Okay. So that is carried, and we'll send positive energy to the deputy mayor so he can get through this technology tonight. All right, let's move on to item 3 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be not contentious, yet they require council's recognition and/or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract the item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 5 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? If so, please indicate to the clerk. Okay, so I have a resolution for our consideration on this matter that reads as follows: that consent items 3.1 to 3.5 be received for information and the minutes of the July 20th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to serve as our mover?
I so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you second that for us?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
Sakes.
And so we are missing Deputy Mayor Kellum. I guess there's struggle there. What say you? Doug, are you with us?
Hello, are you there?
There we are. There we are.
Yeah, I'm in favor. Something's wrong. I can't log on, so I'll do my best to get on. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Doug. So that is carried. Thank you. And just as a note, as I did call on Councillor Seiler, welcome back, Councillor Seiler, from your knee replacement surgery. We're glad to see you up and about so quickly, actually. I'm delighted for you.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor Todd, and I'd like to thank you for the card and all the well-beings and the visits I had on my time off. And it was a very good recovery, and getting along very well. And I'm hopefully I can get back in a milk truck in a couple months.
We're looking forward to the continuing progression of your improvement there.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thank
At
you.
this time, it's proposed that we turn to agenda item number 4. Again, we have a busy night with our agenda calling for 4 public meetings to deal with land planning matters. To facilitate the public meetings, we must temporarily adjourn from our regular council meeting. I have before me a motion to make that happen that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth adjourns at 7:14 p.m. for the purpose of public meetings under the Planning Act concerning the following. 1, an application for a zoning bylaw amendment by Terra Park Development Limited. 2, an application for a zoning bylaw amendment by Caroline Baker on behalf of property owner John Friesen. 3, applications for site plan control by Burcon Construction Inc. And 4, an application for site plan control by Euro Custom Homes Inc. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to serve as our mover?
Yes, Mayor Kasenberg, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstep, can you second that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And I think we're still looking for the deputy mayor. Doug, what say you?
Yes, I don't know what's happening. I can't get in, but anyway, yes.
Okay, so that is carried then, which means that we are temporarily adjourned. That brings us to our public a component of our council meeting this evening. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. I welcome all those who have joined us for this purpose, for this public meeting. This is a statutory public meeting pursuant to the Ontario Planning Act to deal with an application for a housekeeping amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw submitted by Terra Park Developments Limited. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision must have made verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to council. Those who want to receive notice of the municipality's decision concerning this application must notify the clerk by email or telephone, providing their mailing address and telephone number. This time, I believe I'm calling on Mr. Gundry from the county. Okay. It's Planner Yilmaz. Okay, so North Perth Planner Sean Yilmaz is going to give us a summary of the application amendment. Sean.
Thank you, and good evening, members of council. The applicant, on behalf of Riverview Park residents, is proposing to establish a covered on the southern side of the existing long-term care facility, however, requires relief from the zoning provisions to allow the porch to be covered. The subject property is municipally known as 595 Havelock Avenue South and is located between Havelock Avenue South and Nelson Avenue South and is adjacent to Perth Meadows Adult Living Campus. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 42 meters or 140 feet and a total lot area of approximately 6,140 square meters or 65,800 square feet. The lot contains a nearly constructed long-term care facility. The covered porch is proposed to be located adjacent with the existing Perth Meadows retirement community. The subject property is within the residential designation and is within the residential 6 zone of the North Perth zoning bylaw. The site-specific zone permits long-term care home dwellings and accessory uses, including porches, decks, and patios, and etc. The proposed covered porch is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the policies of the Listowel Ward official plan. However, the use generally complies with the zoning regulations of the R6 zone. However, porches are permitted 1.2 meters from the interior side yard lot line, whereas the roof overhang can only encroach 0.6 meters into the required interior side yard setback. As such, the porch is not permitted to be covered without relief. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns, provided that the covered outdoor amenity space remains unenclosed and the roof structure does not exceed an area of 66.3 square meters. The proposal will permit the establishment of a covered outdoor amenity space for the residents of Riverview Park, which is an essential shared space. And the distance between the porch and the lot line is sufficient. As such, it is staff's recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yilmaz. And I just need to clarify, this is not a housekeeping amendment, it's a regular amendment. So, in case anyone...
This is...
Sorry. Okay. So that's with the clarification. I am just reading from my notes and my notes were not right. Okay. Next, let's have the clerk tell us about the notice of public meeting details and any correspondence, comments, and reports that have been received today.
Notice inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on July the 21st, 2020 by first-class mail to landowners within 120 meters of the subject property and emailed to all applicable agencies. The notice was posted on the municipal website and on the subject property on July 21st, 2020, advising of tonight's public meeting. Further to that, I have not been in receipt of any correspondence regarding this zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Clerk Feltz. At this time, then, we'll open to those who have attended the meeting for the purpose of offering public comment. Are there any who are in attendance who wish to offer support for the application besides the applicant? Clerk Feltz, do we have any indication of that? Are there any who are opposed to this application that wish to speak? And the clerk is saying no. And so at this time, the opportunity is provided to the applicant if the applicant wishes to speak.
To you, Mayor, to you, Your Worship, thank you so much for being able to present to you this proposal. It's really a porch. I just wanted to highlight that we're living in sort of unprecedented times, and one of the things that we were contemplating as a group, as a operating entity, and based on our recommendation from our operator, Grey Wave, and our general manager, we wanted to provide more amenity space to be able to encourage further physical distancing measures for our residents, giving them options to enjoy the outdoors during the rain, and also being able to cover in the extreme sun, like a warm day like today. It's just to be able to give residents choices of different kind of genre of amenity space. It's really to benefit them. So yeah, so we wanted to create a nice little porch.
Thanks, Mr. Chung. Any council members have questions at this time that they would like to ask of this application? Please indicate to the clerk through the chat function. We're not seeing any, so notice of council's decision will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The council's decision is subject to appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. So that brings to a close our first public meeting. Thank you for that. Now, public meeting number 2, also pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. Again, welcome to those who are in attendance for this particular meeting and purpose. This is a statutory meeting, a statutory public meeting pursuant to the Ontario Planning Act to deal with an application for an amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw submitted by Caroline Baker of Baker Planning Group on behalf of property owner John Friesen. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to the council. Those who want to receive notice of the municipality's decision concerning this application must notify the clerk by email or telephone, giving their mailing address and telephone number. At this time, we'll call on North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz to provide a summary of the application and amendment. Mr. Yilmaz, welcome again.
Thank you. The applicant, on behalf of the property owner, has submitted an application to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw in an effort to permit the establishment of a 180 square meter or 1,940 square feet machine and detailing workshop to be located at the rear of the subject property. The subject property is a residential lot within the Hamlet Village residential zone in Britain and consists of an existing single detached dwelling. The applicant is seeking a special provision to operate 3 computer numerical control machines, also known as CNC machines, within a purpose-built workshop to be located at the back of the property within an accessory structure. The business will employ the owner as well as the potential for 1 additional employee. The proposed business is relatively small, however, it does not qualify as a home occupation as per the North Perth zoning bylaw. Caroline Baker of Baker Planning Group has been retained by the property owner and has submitted a planning justification report in support of the proposed development. The planning justification report also includes a summary of a noise impact assessment prepared by R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited. Staff is generally in agreement with the planning justification report, which sufficiently addresses provincial and county policies, as well as provides rationale for the proposed use, with attention given to alleviating any compatibility concerns between adjacent residential uses. The subject property is located within the Britain settlement area and is on the south side of line 81, just west of Perth Road 147. The property has 28.5 meters of public road frontage, or 94 feet, and a lot area of 2,424 square meters, or 26,000 square feet. The property is an interior lot with low-density residential uses on both adjacent neighboring properties, with agricultural uses located to the rear and across the street. Britain is made up of predominantly low-density residential dwellings with no identified commercial or industrial uses within the hamlet area. A covered municipal drain is located on the property adjacent with the westerly property line and follows the majority of the existing driveway. The subject property is within the hamlet designation of the County of Perth official plan, with a large portion of the property within the adjacent land and flood and fill overlay, which follows the municipal drain. The property is also within the Hamlet Village residential zone of the North Perth zoning bylaw. Decisions on zoning bylaw amendment applications are required to be consistent with the provincial policy statement. The property is within a rural settlement area, and section 1.1.4 states that in rural areas, rural settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development, and their vitality in regeneration shall be promoted. The proposed development is located within a rural settlement area with the goal of efficiently utilizing the existing residential property while ensuring the building is set back a considerable distance from adjacent residential uses. As I mentioned, R.J. Burnside and Associates prepared a noise impact assessment on behalf of the property owner to determine potential noise impacts from the proposed workshop. The assessment stated that sound levels from the workshop and the proposed use of 3 CNC machines were modeled and based on studies of CNC noise from similar pieces of equipment and the maximum permissible air conditional noise levels under NPC 216. And the assessment concluded that the stationary sound levels from the proposed sources within the development at all points of reception are expected to be below MECP limits. Therefore, no internal stationary noise mitigation measures are required. The property also contains a defined floodplain area with the proposed workshop set back a minimum of 15 meters or 49 feet from the enclosed municipal drain, which is an appropriate distance as required by the North Perth zoning bylaw and the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. The MVCA has reviewed the proposed development and associated application for a zoning bylaw amendment and have no concerns or objections. The proposal meets the intent of the provincial policy statement, Section 6.5 of the County of Perth official plan provides permitted uses within the hamlet and village designations. The hamlet designation means that areas so designated will be used and developed primarily for residential uses. Other uses permitted may include commercial, industrial, institutional, recreational, and utility uses. Home occupations and bed and breakfast establishments are also permitted. The proposed use fits somewhere between a home occupation and an industrial use, both of which are permitted within the hamlet designation. The proposal conforms to the policies of the County of Perth official plan. Now, section 14 of the North Perth zoning bylaw provides permitted uses and zone regulations for land within the HBR zone. Permitted uses include low density residential uses and accessory uses, including home occupations. As discussed, the proposed use is not permitted. However, the applicant is seeking permission to allow the use while seeking to decrease the rear yard setback for an accessory structure from 1.2 meters to 0.3 meters and to decrease the parking requirement for the proposed use from 2 spaces to 1 space. The applicant originally included several other uses. However, after staff expressed concern, the applicant has opted to remove these additional uses. However, this was after the bylaw and the staff report were drafted. The bylaw before you would permit several trade uses, but staff is of the opinion that if the bylaw is to be approved, the use should be limited to only what is being proposed. Also, if the bylaw is approved, the proposed bylaw will limit the number of employees to a maximum of 2 for the operation. This includes 1 off-site employee and the owner. The bylaw will also impose a maximum gross floor area for the accessory structure, which will be permitted a maximum of 180 square meters. If approved, the site plan agreement pursuant to the provisions of Section 41 of the Planning Act will also be required as per the County of Perth official plan. Staff does not have any major concerns with the proposed operation and subsequent amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. However, at the time of writing this report, the municipality has been in receipt of 2 letters of opposition. Concerns noted include noise, parking, and traffic. Staff feels that the noise impact assessment has adequately addressed any concerns regarding noise, while the site-specific zoning will only allow 1 additional employee for a total of 2, and an appropriate amount of parking has been accommodated. The operation is expected to generate approximately 5 to 10 deliveries per week through smaller delivery trucks, with a laneway providing access to the rear of the site. And an off-street paved area is included for delivery trucks to park. It is important to note that the laneway leading to the rear of the property cannot be paved where it is located above the municipal drain. The proposed development is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the County of Perth official plan. However, as the proposed use is not permitted within the HVR zone, and we have had several concerns noted by neighboring properties, staff is recommending council defer a decision to allow time for additional comments to be received, if any, and to allow staff to evaluate these comments and concerns generated from tonight's public meeting. The applicant's agent is here tonight if there's any questions for either myself or for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. At this time, I'll redirect to the clerk and ask her to share with us notice of public meeting details and also the correspondence, comments, and reports that have been received to this date.
Notices inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on July 21st, 2020 by first class mail to landowners within 120 meters of the subject property and emailed to all applicable agencies. The notice was posted on the municipal website and on the subject property on July 21st, 2020, advising of tonight's public meeting. I have been in receipt of 2 pieces of correspondence, which have been included in your council agenda package. The first one was from Jim and Lisa Renee Zaida, and the second piece of correspondence was from Doug and Dave Johnston.
Thank you, Clerk Kerfelds. Next up then is the opportunity for comments from the public, those attending this meeting, and the applicant or agent. Let's start with the public opportunity for those who are in support of the application other than the applicant. You have the opportunity to speak at this time. We had any declarations of second? Okay, so the clerk is saying we have not had any pre-registrations for that. Those who are in opposition to the application may now speak. Do we have anyone who has advised us of their intention to participate in that way? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Todd,
Yes.
it's Dave Johnston here. I would like to speak in opposition.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
I'm Dave Johnston representing Mapleview Farms. We are a farm landowner within the 120 meters of this proposal. I have a couple questions, whether for Sean or for the planner representing Mr. Friesian. It's about the, one of them is about the 0.3 meter setback from the farmer's land. Is that the edge of the building, and will there be an eave on the top of the building getting even closer to the farm is my question. And where will all the water off of that roof go? Will it just be channeled out into the farmer's field again, and he will have to deal with all the water off of that? And I just wonder how they're planning to maintain an area that small. I don't believe a lawnmower will be set up to go down there. So are we going to be looking at a bunch of noxious weeds on the back of that building that will cause issues out in Mr. Conaber's field? I also noticed in the planning report from Ms. Baker that there are no sanitary services proposed for this site. And to me, it looks like it's an awful long way from the house. From the back of the property to the front. And I'm not sure, as someone that has employees, I don't know how they can put up a building that has employees without putting up washroom services. I don't think that's going to meet employment standards at all, or are they just planning to use the farmer's field again and tramp crops or something like that? So I have a serious question about the no sanitary services. And another one in the planning report, it says about the that it's going to maintain the agricultural character of the area, and I personally don't believe that putting an industrial building 0.3 meters from a farmer's field really does anything for the agricultural character of the area. I think it deters from it quite a bit. And the only other question I had is that they're proposing 3 machines, only 1 employee. Does that mean they won't be running all the machines at a time, or is this just to get the zoning on it and get it built, and then they'll actually have more employees there because they're putting in 3 machines, and I don't believe that one person can run all 3 machines at one time. So those are my questions. Thank you very much to council and the mayor.
Thanks, Dave. Anyone else registered or wants to speak in opposition to the application? Not that we're aware of. Okay. If you're out there, speak up now. All right. So the third opportunity then in the public meeting is to hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent. This time we'll call on Caroline Baker, I believe, to speak to the application. Welcome, Ms. Baker.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to present this evening. I had prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but Mr. Yilmaz has provided a very thorough and comprehensive presentation covering a number of my points. So in light of your large agenda, I thought it might be helpful to maybe answer some of the questions that have been posed this evening, and then answer any further questions or have dialogue from there. I would note that we are in agreement with the deferral until next week. And we are also on behalf of the owner in agreement with the modification to the requested use to limit it essentially to the machine workshop as proposed. I did just want to note that we are in support of both those components that were presented by the planner. I'll maybe take this time now to answer some of the questions that were provided. I appreciate your input, some excellent questions, and hoping I can provide some clarification. The first series of questions in my mind certainly are related to the site plan application that would be required should the zoning be approved, and that would go through the municipality addressing matters such as drainage. It is not the intent to have an eaves trough closer to the property line than the 0.3 meters. That would certainly be the limit. And through the site plan application, matters related to stormwater management and drainage would be addressed. It is certainly a requirement under Section 41 of the Planning Act and Site Plan that no water be directed to an adjacent property owner. So that is certainly a very key criteria and component to a site plan application. The second question, excellent question regarding the washroom. As mentioned again, it will be going through a site plan application, and certainly as it relates to the Ontario Building Code and going through that review, if there is the opportunity to provide a washroom facility, likely not a shower or bath, but a toilet and sink, and confirming that that can be accommodated within the existing bed. We'll go through site plan and building permit on this application. Certainly, the proposed workshop represents approximately 7% of the total site area. You can see there's substantial room between the existing single detached dwelling and the proposed workshop should any modifications to the sanitary bed or the septic bed be required. The third comment related to the agricultural character. And I thought it important to note that the proposed machine workshop will be located entirely within the building. There will be no exterior component to the rear that would be visible from the farmland. It will essentially appear as an accessory shed or structure. Could look very similar to a shed or accessory structure that would be on a farm property. So in my respectful opinion, in terms of negative impact on the agricultural character, given that this is in a settlement area and within a hamlet, I believe those sections of the official plan have been satisfied. And the last question, I believe, was the commentary with respect to 3 CNC machines, but only 2 staff. There is the option, because obviously they're significant technology in these machines now that are computer assisted. The intent is not to have 3 staff, but that you can actually be operating multiple machines at a time. And with 2 staff, that does give them the 1 extra machine to work with. I believe that was all the questions, but certainly if there's additional questions, I'm happy to answer them or provide greater clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Let me turn to council at this point. Do members of council have any questions pertaining to this application? Please indicate to the clerk if you wish to speak. Are we seeing no indication of that? All right. So notice of our decision will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The council's decision is subject to appeal to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. That brings to a close meeting. We will turn our attention to the third public meeting that we have this evening. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Municipality of North Perth's policy regarding a proposed site plan. Again, welcome to those who have joined us for the purpose of considering this matter. This is an application that has been submitted to the municipality by Burcon Construction Incorporated. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider site plans under Section 41 of the Planning Act RSO 1990. It is the responsibility of council to decide if the application is to be approved or denied. Those in attendance wishing to make comment concerning these applications will be given an opportunity to do so. This time I'm going to call on North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz to give us a briefing and summary of this application. Welcome again, Sean.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting approval to proceed with the construction of 2 two-story fourplex dwellings on 2 adjacent individual lots of record. As the properties are adjacent and owned by the same applicant, staff has elected to prepare a consolidated staff report and subsequent summary to discuss the applications for site plan approval. Both properties are identical in shape and size, with each having a lot frontage of approximately 21.7 meters or 71 feet, and a total lot area of approximately 850 square meters or 9,100 square feet. Both properties are located on the east side of Wallace Avenue South and are currently vacant. The subject lands are within the residential designation and are within the residential 4 zone of the North Perth zoning bylaw. The designation and zone permit a variety of multi-unit residential uses, including fourplex dwellings as proposed. The municipality's chief building official, engineering consultant, fire chief, and the North Perth planner have reviewed the site plan drawing. The drawing contains the information required for a complete review and can serve as the basis for a site plan agreement. It's important to note that a shared access is proposed to provide access for both fourplex dwellings with parking located in the rear. Each property has 3 meters dedicated for an access, which is sufficient. It is staff's recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the site plan application submitted by Burcon Construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. At this time, I'll redirect to the clerk to ask about the notice of public meeting details and to summarize any correspondence, comments, and reports that have been received today.
Notices inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on July 29th, 2020 by first-class mail to landowners within 60 meters of the subject property, and I have not been in receipt of any correspondence regarding this application.
At this time, then, there is the opportunity for anyone in attendance and participating in this meeting to make comment on the application or details of the site plans. Anyone wish to speak to this? Fairfelds, anything? Councillor Rothwell. Councillor Rothwell, question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you, Mayor Todd. Question for Sean. I note on the reports is that we see these two separate lots, but it appears on the portfolio that we have 3 lots. Can you just explain? Also, I was a little bit confused. Thank you.
Sorry, I cut out a bit, but I think you're asking why it looks like there's 3 lots when there's two separate individual lots of record, I guess. So this happened through a consent application recently where several single detached lots were consolidated for the purpose of creating 4 larger lots for 4plexes. So these are the 2 site plans for the first 2 lots that were created. And we would be seeing 2 more come through at a later date. From a different applicant, but because of how the severance or the consent application worked, these are different lots of parts that have kind of been put together to create the larger parcel.
Thank you. Councillor Rothwell.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just I had a vague memory of that, but it would have been nice to have actually seen that in the report. But I appreciate Sean's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wishing to speak or ask questions about this matter at this time? I'm not seeing any. I'll say that I'm actually quite pleased with the apparent layout of the site and the parking is at the rear. As some of my council colleagues know, I've had concerns about parking at the front for residential 4plexes in this general neighborhood, and the fact that we're considering rear parking and also have found appropriate locations for garbage and recycling receptacles is quite delightful to me. So I'm in support of this particular site application. With regards to the applicant, is the applicant or their agent with us to speak tonight? Okay. So a notice of the decision for this matter will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal only by the property owner or applicant in accordance with the provisions of section 41, subsection 12 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. That brings to close the 3rd of our public meetings. Let's turn to item number 4 in our public meeting agenda tonight. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Municipality of North Perth's policy regarding a proposed site plan. Welcome to those who are in attendance and will participate in this public meeting. This is an application by Euro Custom Homes, Inc. The purpose of the public meeting is to consider site plans under section 41 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. It is the responsibility of council to decide if the application is to be approved or denied. Those in attendance wishing to make comment concerning these applications will be given an opportunity to do so. At this time, I'll call on North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz for a 4th time to summarize this application to us for council. And those welcome again, Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting approval to proceed with the construction of two one-story, four-unit townhouse dwellings on the subject lands for a total of 8 units. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 73 meters or 240 feet, with a total lot area of approximately 2,400 square meters or 26,000 square feet. The subject lands are currently vacant. And the subject lands are within the residential designation and are within the residential 5 zone of the North Perth zoning bylaw. This designation and zone permits a variety of residential uses, including townhouse dwellings as proposed. The North Perth Committee of Adjustment recently approved an application for a minor variance, application A10-2020, effectively reducing the minimum interior side yard setback from 3 meters or 10 feet to 2 meters or 6.5 feet on both sides of block 67 and increasing the required lot coverage from 50 meters to 52.5 meters. The municipality's chief building official, fire chief, public works department, and the North Perth planner have reviewed the site plan drawings. The drawing contains the information required for a complete review and can serve as the basis for a site plan agreement. Adequate parking, access, fire protection, lot grading, and drainage are provided for the development as shown on the site plan. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the council approve the site plan application as submitted by Euro Custom Homes. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yilmaz. At this time, then I'll read we will first provide us with notice of public meeting details, and secondly, give us a summary of correspondence, comments, and reports received.
Notices inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on July 29th, 2020 by first-class mail to landowners within 60 meters of the subject property, and I have not been in receipt of any correspondence regarding this site plan application.
Thank you, Clerk Berfeld. At this time, then, is an opportunity for those who have joined us for this public meeting and who wish to make comments to do so. If you wish to make a comment on the application or details of the site plan, then you're welcome to so indicate at this time. Berfeld, are we aware of anyone wishing to take advantage of that opportunity? We're not aware of anyone. So at this time, this is the opportunity for the applicant or their agent to say a few words in support of this application. Do we have either of those with us tonight? No, so they're not represented this evening. Council members, do you have any questions or comments on this at this time? And we're not seeing any indication of that, so that brings us to the opportunity to close this meeting. I know decision will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The council's decision is subject to appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal only by the property owner in accordance with the provisions of section 41, subsection 12 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. That brings to a close our public meetings at this time. To formalize that, let's have an adjournment resolution brought to our attention. The public meetings for the purpose of Planning Act applications is now adjourned at 7:54 p.m. and the council reconvene into regular open council. Councillor Barnes, can I call on you to serve as mover for that?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our seconder for that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on the resolution to exit our public meetings and return to regular council? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
Mayor Todd, I still have no access to meeting. Yes, I'm asking for someone to reach out, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
I believe Simon's in the building, so we'll ask Simon if you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been requested, Doug. So what say you, Doug, on this one? You're a yes or no?
I'm a yes, thank you.
Okay, that's 8, and then We, right, and who else do we have to account for? Councillor Behrens, I guess we're not recording your vote at this point.
I am in favor.
Thank you. So that is carried, which means that we are back in regular session of council. That means, as is our custom, we have some matters to attend to as council in following up on the public meetings that we just had. First, let's deal with the item 4.1. I have a resolution and a bylaw before me for our consideration, council. The resolution reads as follows: that the council of the municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment affecting property described as part of Block 39 of Plan 44M10, being Part 1 on 44R 5485 and Part 1 on 44R 5597, known as 595 Havelock Avenue South, Listowel Ward, in the municipality of North Perth, as submitted by Terra Park Developments. I call on Deputy Mayor Kellum to serve as our mover for that.
Yes, I will move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, would you serve as our seconder for that? He's left the meeting for the rest of the meeting. He may return. Okay, so Councillor Johnston is out. Councillor Richardson, would you serve as our seconder for that? Councillor Richardson? Okay, I'll go down my list. Councillor Rothwell, would you serve as our seconder for that?
I'll second that motion, yes.
Thank you very much. Ooh, I was beginning to think I was being abandoned. All right. We have a motion duly moved and seconded related to the application for a zoning bylaw amendment on Havelock. Any discussion or debate? See no indication of that. Let's have the vote. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, what say you?
I'm in favor. I still have no e-scribe from the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, well, we're working on it. I'm not. I can. The clerk will monitor this for us, and we'll keep on it. So we'll call that carried. Thank you. And let's turn then to the bylaw for this. I have a bylaw resolution that reads as follows: that bylaw number 111-2020, being a bylaw to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw number 6-ZB-1999 as amended, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. And that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Get ahead of myself here. Councillor Richardson, are you with us?
Yes, I will move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you second that for us?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one? Clerk Schultz, anything? Okay, seeing none, let's have that vote.
I am in favor.
Thanks, Doug. And so that is carried. Thank you. That's item 4.1 dealt with. Item 4.2 pertains to the reason request of us. And I have two resolutions. Actually, I have one resolution. Right. If that's the council's wish. Okay, so council, as per the staff recommendation, I'm going to read the resolution available to us, and we'll test council's wishes here. The resolution reads as follows: the council of the municipality of North Perth defer the application for a zoning bylaw amendment as submitted by Baker Planning Group on behalf of John Friesen, affecting property described as Lot 7, Concession 4, Part 3 of Reference Plan 44R 3539, Plan 497, 5287, 981, Elma Ward in the municipality of North Perth. Could I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstead, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate from council? We're not seeing any indication of that, so let's have that vote.
I'm good.
And Deputy Mayor Callum says yes as well, so we'll call that carried. Thank you. It means that there's no need to address a bylaw for that matter at this time. That brings us to item 4.3. I have before me a bylaw and a general resolution. So let's start with the general first. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve site plan application SP7-2020 and SP8-2020 submitted by Burcon Construction Inc. affecting property described as lots 4, 5, and 6 of Plan 44M61, being parts 8, 9, 10, and 12 of RP 44R 5726 Wallace Avenue South in the listable ward, and that council proceed with the adoption of the bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement and have it registered on title of the subject property. Could I call on Councillor Behrens to be our mover for that?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate by council on this matter? Please indicate, clerk, if there is. And we're not seeing anything, so let's have that vote.
So it should be sending you an email with a temporary password.
Okay, someone's off mute, so we should be careful about that.
I'm good. I'm trying to work with Simon here.
Right, thanks, Doug. So,
Yep.
Favor, I assume?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
All right, thank you. So that is carried. Now we have the bylaw, and the bylaw resolution reads as follows: that bylaw number 103-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a site plan agreement with Burcon Construction Inc. be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor, clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as mover for that? Might be on mute. Yeah, I told him to go on mute, I guess. All right, let's move on then to Councillor Richardson. Will you serve as mover for that one?
I will move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as seconder for that one?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And Deputy Mayor Kellum?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, so that's a yes vote, and that means that motion is carried as well. Next up is there's a second one. Oh, thank you. I saw two, and I thought you were just doubling up documentation in the book. Awesome. We have another Burcon bylaw resolution to consider here, Council. Bylaw number 56-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a site plan agreement with Burcon Construction Inc. and Gregory Connolly be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for that?
Yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you second that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one? Let's have that vote.
I'm good. Simon's trying to reset my password.
All right, thank you. So that is carried as well. Let's turn to item 4.4 next. And again, we have two items here for consideration. First, a general resolution It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves site plan application SP 09-2020 submitted by Euro Custom Homes affecting property described as Block 67 of Plan 44M72, Kiso Lane. List to award, and the council will proceed with the adoption of the bylaw authorizing the mayor and the clerk to enter into a site plan agreement and have it registered on title of subject property. Councillor Anstett, will you serve as our mover tonight?
I will move that. Thank you.
Thanks. And can I call on Councillor Behrens as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that matter? No indication of same. Let's have that vote.
I'm good, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And so we'll call that carried as well. Honestly. And next, let's have the bylaw for this matter, the bylaw number 55-2020, being a bylaw authorizing the signing of a site plan agreement with Euro Custom Homes, Inc., be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed. The said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. And I call on Councillor Duncan to serve as our mover.
So moved.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor is our seconder for this one.
I'll second that, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing no mention of that, let's have that vote.
I'm in favor, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And so that is carried. Brings us through all of the public meeting business that we've had, which means we can turn our attention now to a delegation that we have before us tonight. My pleasure to invite Denise Lance, who has asked to address council about our bylaw provisions related to the keeping of hens in non-agricultural zones. Remind delegate that you're allocated 10 minutes in accordance with our procedural bylaw. Ms. Lance, welcome. Ms. Lance? Okay, so we're seeing.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Hello, Mayor and councilors. My name is Denise Lance. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me this evening. I am speaking today to request a formal leniency on the bylaw restricting chickens in residential areas until the bylaw has been amended or a decision to not amend it has been made. We have been building our chicken coop on and off for 3 years. Over the 3 years of planning, we did our research on how to care for hens. We told our neighbors and asked their permission, and we searched on the township website for bylaws restricting us from having hens. After looking, we could not find anything, and all the people we spoke to in town were under the impression in North Perth we were allowed to have laying hens in our backyard. During our COVID-19 quarantine, we finally finished our coop and were able to get our 3 laying hens. A month later, we received a business card in our mailbox asking us to call the number on the front. This was the Bylaw and Property Standards Officer. She told us about the bylaw in North Perth that does not allow chickens in residential areas. When we explained that we were unable to find this, she told us the day before it was made more visible on the township website. Since this all transpired, as you know, the bylaw on chickens in residential areas is under debate. The petition that we put out for support and awareness has 586 signatures. We have had amazing support from all the people we talked to in town, and all our neighbors have expressed their love for our 3 hens. We have a fence on one side of our yard and along the back. We have a great neighborhood where we all have a good relationship. I have submitted a satellite image of our block, which is up right now. It's got approximate property lines, and the fence lines around our property are shown. Our property is 165 feet deep by 64 feet frontage. The letters submitted were numbered and you can see where the people who wrote the letters reside. Two of our letters were not added to your packages. So for this reason, I will read them now. In the first letter is property number 1, and I believe this email was sent directly to all the councillors by Bruce himself. Dear Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors, I understand that discussion will be taking place in the near future in regards to residents keeping chickens on their property. Our neighbors, John and Denise Martin, recently built a beautiful chicken coop for 3 laying hens. Shortly after, they received a notice it was against a town bylaw to have chickens. For what it is worth, we live directly beside them. We have no fence between our properties, and Diane and I think the chickens are not an issue. Actually, we find them entertaining. If there was a smell or noise or appearance issue, I believe we have bylaws to address these situations. But I can assure you that none of these issues will ever be a problem with John and Denise. They are wonderful neighbors. Thank you. Sincerely, Bruce Fitzgerald. And then they have letter number 2 is from the property on the other side of us. Hello, my name is June, and I live beside Denise Lantz and John Martin. I have no issues with them keeping their 3 laying hens in the backyard of their home on 548 Inkerman Street East in Listowel. There is also letters which you have copies for on properties number 3, number 2, and number 4. I believe that this shows the people who are all around the chickens feel that they are not negatively affected by them. That being the case, I am hard pressed to see why the hens can't stay until the council makes a formal decision. Chickens in backyards exist all over North Perth as it is, and it is my understanding that this bylaw was loosely enforced until now. Since we got our hens, we feel we have only gotten closer to the people in our neighborhood. We have been able to show the kids where eggs come from and how we care for our animals. And for the adults, I feel the hens have been entertaining to watch as well. Just like we grow food in our garden, we raise our hens for eggs and to be our loving pets. The issue I have with rehoming these chickens until a decision is finalized is that the process in this debate is a lengthy one. The survey is ongoing until September, and after the results come in from that, there is still a lot more that has to be discussed until a bylaw would be finalized. This could put us into October or even November. The stress of rehoming these chickens, as well as the season they could be returning in, could be very difficult on their well-being. These hens have taken a while to get used to their surroundings, and just like any animal, the decision to rehome them is not one that should be taken lightly. Thank you again for letting me speak today and taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, Ms. Lantz. Councillors, any of you have questions that you'd like to ask of our delegation this evening? Are you seeing any indication of this? Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you very much for attending this evening, Ms. Lantz. Appreciate your words and your precision with your argument. Council, what say you at this point? Is there any will of council to be met on this matter? Please indicate to the clerk if you'd like to speak. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you, Denise, for a very good presentation. I have been also in speaking with Mr. Fitzgerald as well. It's incredibly unfortunate that when situations like this, and I totally understand that you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, only given the fact that however it came about that the bylaw standards officer came around to issue that with the card. And that's incredibly unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons, because more and more people are getting them, whether they be complaint driven or not, that all of a sudden that this has brought this to a head to bring it back for discussion. as a big proponent of this, and allowing them to stay, we do have to obviously keep in mind of existing policies that are in place now. It's incredibly unfortunate, and I totally understand. One question, prior to the last delegation that we had regarding backyard hens, those hens were successfully moved, were they not, out at the Trowbridge from several weeks ago? Were they required to move? Just an open question to anyone who might know.
Yeah, the clerk is nodding. Did you want to speak to that? No, the clerk is just saying he is confirming that a requirement to move was imposed on the previous delegation.
And what sort of a time period, supplemental to that, my apologies, what sort of a time limit was given for that as per the bylaw? What's the usual standard timeline to have them moved by? Is there a certain time frame or?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Clerk Bearfelds to jump in. Just let me put myself on mute for a moment here.
In most instances, when the bylaw enforcement officers attend locations where we've received complaints, they usually try to have conversation with the landowners in regards to what would make sense and what is would be applicable in regards to them complying with the bylaws. So I'm led to believe at the time the bylaw officer would have worked with those landowners at the time, and they would have worked out a time that made sense and an opportunity for them to move the chickens. I'm not going to provide an actual timeline. I think that's something that has to be worked out with the actual owner of the chickens and the bylaw enforcement officers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Else, any other councillor wishing to speak at this point, clerk? Councillor Anstead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kasenberg, through you, and thanks again, Denise, for your presentation. Very informative, and I know that we have spoken on several occasions. Just the question that I had, I know that we've been talking about the chickens that were successfully rehomed. I'm just looking in terms of options. Did you have anything lined up at this time, or are you hoping to keep them? Do you have, I guess, any other options? Is my question.
So I have spoken with someone in Elmira who may be able to take them. We need to build a structure attached to their dwelling. That's the bylaw in Woolwich Township. So it is an option to rehome them to Elmira or into Meaford if need be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Anstead. Councillor Rothwell next.
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and Denise, thanks very much for your presentation. I too did speak with your neighbor, Bruce Fitzgerald, and about his comments and views regarding the chickens and so on. I'm concerned that when you did look at the municipality's website to see if there was information there regarding the keeping of chickens, that you felt satisfied because you didn't see it, that was the answer. And unfortunately, and what I will say, because this is a meeting that's available to the public, is that you should always check with our staff, because if you can't see it, doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. It just means that you need to ask that question specific. So I think this is a lesson for all of us in terms of checking to make sure that the information is correct in terms of whether the keeping of chickens is allowed or not. And unfortunately for you, it's not. And I agree with Councillor Richardson in terms of our requirements as a municipality to uphold our bylaw until such time as the bylaws change. So I do wish you well in terms of possible rehousing situations for your chickens, and certainly look forward to the conversations for our community. Thank you.
That's all from council. Council, anything further? Does anyone have any will with regards to this matter, or is this just to sit as it is? Okay, so there's no further comment. Again, Ms. Lance, thank you. Probably not exactly what you were looking for at this point, but council's not showing any indication to create a specific exception or to accelerate the timetable of the chicken. Yes?
Councilor Richardson.
Okay, Councilor Richardson, did you want to jump in here? Matt, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, there.
Thank you. My apologies for my mute buttons not working correctly. I do feel that any courtesy that needs to be extended, obviously given the circumstances and the distance away for required, I do believe that any bylaw enforcement issues or anything like that will be extending as much courtesy as we possibly can, given the circumstances for this and the distance of which it needs to happen. I do not know where the other chickens were rehomed. I don't know if they were local or close by. I'm not aware of that because I'm not with property standards, but I would certainly like to afford as much possible time just given the circumstances, but I'm quite confident that our bylaw enforcement will work in close concert with Denise at this unfortunate circumstance.
Agreed. That's certainly, I think, the expectation of all of council is that these matters are dealt with professionally by our bylaw enforcement officers and with a certain degree of compassion and collaboration in solving some of the issues. So thank you for that. I think we'll move on to our next agenda item then. Again, Ms. Lance, thank you for joining us. That brings us to agenda item number 5, reports from departments and key staff. Let's begin with item 5.1, which are the reports from the CAO's office. Item 5.1.1 brings forward the council work of council's Human Resources Committee, updating various policies and delivering a new telework policy for the corporation. I'm going to call on CAO Chris Snell to address this report, which reflects the work of the committee and staff recommendations to that committee. CAO Snell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have Jen with us tonight, so actually Jen's going to go through the policies because she is the most familiar with the policies and is really done all the work putting this stuff together. So I'll just pass it over to Jen. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg and Council. So tonight we are bringing 5 policies to Council that are either being revised or an addition as the telework policy to our existing human resources policy manual. First policy is an amendment to the social events committee policy. This amendment is revising the wording in the existing policy to include a contribution of council funds to the social events committee. Currently, the social events committee operates based on funds that they raise through fundraising efforts in our office. And the proposal here is that council would give the committee an annual stipend of $250 and then also match up to an initial $250 if per year if they can fundraise. So if they fundraise $250, they would match that $250 that they have fundraised. So a total budget impact of between $250 to $500 if the committee is able to fundraise what the policy is asking. So that is the proposal for that policy. I'll go on to the training and development policy. So we have, with the training and development policy, just slightly revised where the funds are coming out of in the budget. We are making an effort and always have been, but we make a real effort to succession plan staff, train them for positions that will benefit them for the future. Sometimes those are within their existing department. Sometimes those are an opportunity perhaps that exists within the municipality, but not necessarily related to their position that they currently have. So we thought that it would be best that those long-term training, which the policy defines as courses that are recognized with a certificate, a diploma, a degree, or a designation and cost more than $500. That long-term training would come out of a special fund that we would create called a development and succession planning budget. That way it would not have an impact on the direct department's budget if the training didn't necessarily pertain to their current job or the current department the employee is working for. I'll move on to the telework policy. So this is a new policy to the organization. Throughout COVID, we have had an opportunity to participate in this this event of working from home for the purpose of social distancing. It's worked very well. Employees have enjoyed being able to have a work-life balance. It's something that through our employee engagement survey that we conducted in 2019, it was one of the items that was asked for by the employees, or the employees were in support of trying it, albeit a little bit hesitant to whether it would particularly work for the organization. But through COVID, we've found that it actually is quite practical. And we would like to formalize that into an opportunity going forward for the future. So the telework policy that I've proposed, it does walk through a process in which it encourages dialogue between the employee and the supervisor to make certain that the opportunity makes sense for the person and the position that they currently hold. And we ask for an analysis that it does make sense, an agreement to be signed, making sure that the employee and the manager have had that dialogue and understand what's being asked of working from home, and also an ergonomic assessment of their work location in the home setting. So all those items checked off, if they meet the criteria of the telework policy, then we would encourage further dialogue and an approval of the telework agreement. So anybody working more than 1 day or 1 day a week or 4 days per month would be asked to go through this formal process. If it was less than that, ad hoc and not formal, so less than 3 days a month, it wouldn't need to be done through this policy. But 4 days a month or 1 day a week or more, then we would ask that this formal policy and process be completed for the telework agreement. And then finally, the last policy that, oh, two more, sorry. The next policy is insurance benefits. So we are proposing a slightly serious or major amendment to this policy, and asking consideration for permanent part-time employees to be eligible to join our benefit program. We are doing this because our municipality is growing, and we do have many employees who are permanent and part-time on our payroll roster. So permanent would mean working 12 months of the year. And we have had some difficulty retaining staff, most particularly within the daycare, library, and recreation. Those are mainly the departments that do have those permanent part-time employees. So the ask here is that if they are permanent part-time, if they work more than 21 hours a week, that we extend health and dental coverage to those employees through our benefit program. So currently full-time employees are also enrolled in life and long-term disability. That is not the ask here, it's for health and dental only. And I have given costing on the report for that, as well as an estimation of approximately how many employees that would impact. And then finally, safety wear. We have an annual or a twice every 2 year allocation of funds for employees in public works and recreation, or what we would call outside workers, to purchase personal safety clothing or branded clothing for the purposes of their position. I have had an ask from our recreation department to consider allowing the purchase of a wide brim sun hat to be included in the approved expenses using their allocated funds. So for sun protection, for health and safety, I think it's a great idea that we go ahead and do that. So I have added that to the chart and ask for consideration for that to be approved for the allowed purchase of protective clothing. So I've went through that fairly quickly, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has about those policies.
Thank you, Jen. Just for council's note, the Human Resources Committee has approved all of these from their perspective and asked them to be sent to council for consideration. Clerk Beerpelts, let's have a speaking order. Councillor Behrens first.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Thank you, Jen, very much. It's very detailed, the policies. I only have one comment, and that is regarding 2.3, the training and development. And even though it says several times that all training must be approved by your manager, etc., before you can be reimbursed, when you read a couple of the points thereafter, it sounds like anything you choose to take will be approved. I know that's not the case. I know that's not the intention. If I remember correctly, it is the employee and the manager that work on a training and educational plan, if you will, and the manager signs off on that, and then any courses that are taken are approved. But just, I don't know if in bullet 1 it can be any stronger, but that's my concern.
Okay. So to answer your question, Julie, you are correct that typically there is an allocated budget per department, and the training is approved based on conversations, performance reviews, targeted educational goals, etc. Not everything is approved under this policy, but we do try to be as supportive to staff as we can with their training requests. So if you do have any suggested wording, I certainly could look at incorporating that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anstead is next.
Thanks, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. Thanks very much, Jen, for the reports. Having done 1 or 2 policies in my career, I can attest to how much work there. So thanks very much. My question was just around the 2.1, the insurance benefits. I noticed in the report under the financial implications, you wrote that there's a projected or estimated cost impact of $5,000 and $5,040 per month. And I noticed that you listed 16 staff members that are eligible to join the plan. I'm just curious though, the $5,000 per month, do we budget for this, or is this an additional cost outside of the budget? Thank you.
I believe it would be an additional cost outside of the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other folks queued up to speak? CEO Snell, did you have any comments on these matters before we bring to a vote? I see Councillor CEO Snell speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just to maybe to address Councillor Anstead's question, even though it wasn't necessarily budgeted for by department, we do have sufficient funds in our employee benefits surplus to cover any budget requirements if necessary. And I forget exactly the number of municipalities in our consortium, but it's well over 3/4 of them are offering part-time benefits to their employees, and that's only the here in Perth area. So I know for sure this package puts us on a similar par with West Perth and the benefits they offer their employees as far as part-time employees. I think that's really all the comments I have. We can maybe look at addressing Councillor Barron's concerns with just making sure that all training has the approval of department head and/or CAO if required.
Thanks, C.S. Snell. I think that's prudent. If there's any ambiguity about that, I think it would be fair to say the historical perspective of council was to ensure that training opportunities were approved if they were to be funded by the corporation by appropriate manager. Councillor Rothwell, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I appreciate Chris's comments with respect to the budgetary piece here, because that was a question I had that Councillor Anstett brought forward. Clearly, we're going to be in some difficult financial budget times here in terms of, as we've talked previously at Council about. So if there is a way to offer this benefit to our employees through the surplus, I think that's a great idea. My next question deals specifically with the telework issue, and the question I have there is dealing with space allocation in terms of our staff. And while telework might work for some people in terms of space and that they would be working from home one or more days of the week, the question becomes in terms of the assets of the municipality in terms of desk space and then work and computer and so on. Clearly in these days of COVID and so on, I mean, thorough cleaning is required if other people are sharing spaces and so on. But what are the implications that we have, and what would be anticipated number of employees that may take advantage of this opportunity if we move forward? Thank you.
Well, let's start with Ms. Robinson first.
Thank you for the question, Alan. Currently, I would say in our office of approximately, I'm going to estimate 30 staff. Everyone has participated in working from home throughout COVID on a rotational basis. I'm not certain that everyone going forward is going to go down the path of this official telework arrangement, but I would estimate that based on conversations and work-life balance concerns, I would estimate 40 to 50% of the current office staff at the municipal office would likely be interested in this. In terms of technological requirements, most staff, actually, I'm guessing here, but 50% of the staff likely do have a laptop as their work computer. And if they don't, they're either borrowing one right now that's a spare, or they're connecting from home through their home computer remotely into their desktop. So I don't have a good answer on the technology requirements. There may be some laptop purchases that would have to happen as a result of that, but I certainly could get back to you with that answer with an estimate after we talk to IT. In terms of cleaning, our office is being cleaned twice a day. We do have protocols in place for cleaning workstations, as well as the supplies in place to clean workstations. We're not at a point right now where we have officially ran out of desk space, which would require alternating work locations when people are working from home, but we're very close to it. So I don't see that as an immediate problem, but it could be a problem very shortly into the future.
Thank you very much for your comments and answers.
Doug, we're not hearing you.
I didn't. Are you acknowledging me?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Kelly.
Yeah, good. All my questions and answers have been pretty much done, and that's good. The question I'm getting, and not throwing Amy under the bus, is, if we're not opening up our arena facilities in the next, what are our employees doing?
Ms. Robinson, did you want to comment on that in a general way?
In terms of our administration employees, is that the question, Doug?
No, my question is not for administration, so it's probably related to Amy. If we're not opening up the 3 facilities, what are those employees doing?
Okay, so maybe I'll redirect that. I think Ms. Gango is with us, right? Amy, did you want to address that? I've certainly had that question myself.
Certainly, yes, thank you. We've actually been working on a reopening plan, and so that has taken up quite a bit of time. When we are reopening, it was very easy. It was easier to close our facilities than reopen them. So our staff are actually working hard at getting our facilities ready so that they can reopen. And we are going over procedures with regards to cleaning and disinfecting, getting ideas of exactly how this is going to look and what the actual times for our staff to be able to manage that. So we're working through our policies, procedures with those pieces. Right now, staff are working on the parks and recreation, the trails, and our maintenance, getting things ready. So if the ice is going into steep curve mid-September, we need to get all of our technicians in to be able to make sure that all the safety inspections have been done so that things can be ready.
That is good. Supplemental, Mayor Todd?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm getting also asked is probably everyone in this about the walking trail. What are we doing with the walking trail? Amy, I know you and I have had this conversation before, but I think the rest of council needs to know.
For sure. It is part of our reopening plan. It is not the first stage of our reopening plan. It is one of the later stages. Staff and some of our main users, we need to get into a place of opening these facilities safely for our public. And we can't just open our doors and allow all individuals coming in and dropping in. It's just not safe for our community members and users. So we need to do them on a controlled basis. We've been working with staff on trying to figure out logistics of how the indoor track would look and how we can make sure that those users are safe when they do come in to use those facilities. So they are in the works. We're trying to figure out what those logistics are and how we can do that. It involves screening our participants, setting out specific times for them to use that, as well as tracking and tracing the individuals. So we're trying to figure out how that can be done in the safest manner possible. And when we have that set, then that will happen.
Okay. CEO Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add, and I know it was hard because we weren't necessarily expecting this question tonight, but just the recreation staff are also doing a lot of things that I think we're all kind of taking for granted. So North Perth was way ahead of the game as far as getting public washrooms opened. We were about 3 weeks ahead of even some of our neighbors getting public washrooms open. But because of the mandates put in by public health, those washrooms have to be cleaned at least twice daily. And although we only have 5 open to the public, cleaning public space twice a day is taking up more time of Amy's department. And like Jen said, the office and police station are now cleaned twice a day. Well, that's part of a staff duty now that wasn't done before. Our cleaner staff was always done in the morning. Now we have to have a second facility staff in throughout the day to do a walk through our building and clean high touch surfaces. So every time we open a place to the public, it does take up a fair amount of the facility staff to follow the direction right now from public health.
And that's good, Chris. I totally agree with what you're saying, but don't think that we're not getting hammered every day with all of us counselors with us. We just want to make sure that we have the focus, that we're moving forward and everything is good. And I am so happy what we're doing, and we'll move forward with this. Thank you.
If I can just add one thing, if anybody has any booking inquiries, the Recreation Department is accepting those contacts and those inquiries, so please direct them to us.
Okay, let's get back onto our the issue before us with regards to the policies for staff. Any further questions or comments before I read the resolution that I have? Okay, seeing none, I have a resolution for our consideration council that reads as follows: that the council of the municipality of North Perth approve the listed policies as amendments to the human resources policy A-1.7 social events committee, B-2.3 training and development, C-1.7 telework policy with 3 appendices, appendix A, B, and C, D-2.1 insurance benefits, and D-2.6 safety wear policy. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Callum to serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. And is Councillor Johnston returned to the meeting or no? Okay, so Councillor Richardson, would you serve as our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? We're acknowledging that if there's an opportunity to improve 2.3 with council's will with regards to the funding of training being approved by the manager, that should be done. But we can trust staff to that if we pass this resolution. Any further comments, discussion, or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And we've got everyone. So that's carried. Thank you.
Mayor Todd, Mayor Todd,
Yes.
I'm back on. You know, I just, you know, so many bad things. Simon was just a good thing. Simon was all over this, and he got me back on track. It was a password thing that, and he said it's within the North Perth. So anyway, I'm back good, and let's go.
Thanks, Doug. All right. Let's move on to item 5.1.2. This item relates to an intended effort by Mornington Communications Cooperative Limited to seek grant funding from Canada's ICON initiative, which intends to expand broadband access in rural communities. It's an Ontario initiative. Mornington intends its applications for this program to cover the Hamilton, Donegal, and Molesworth. The support of this council in the form of a letter of endorsement is believed to be of value to their application, showing community commitment for the project. I'll call on CAO Snell to address this report in the Mornington CAO.
Thank you, Mayor. Really, I don't have a whole lot more to add than what the mayor has expressed. As he said, ICON was announced in July of this year to increase the investment in high-speed internet across rural Ontario. Now, the $150 will not fix a great deal of the problems in rural Ontario, but any money at this time is a benefit. And as mentioned by the mayor, we've been contacted by Mornington to express our support for 2 projects, one fiber to Donegal and the other fiber to Molesworth. Both those municipalities, as a result of the project, will have benefit to neighboring municipalities. So Perth East is being asked to support the Donegal project, as well as Huron East is being asked to support the Molesworth project. I did attend a webinar on ICON, and there is really no requirement for the municipality to make an investment in the projects. And by supporting it, we're just supporting the notion of having high-speed fiber expand into our communities. So I'm prepared to take any questions if there are any from council.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I have a resolution for consideration that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North direct the CAO to provide a letter of endorsement to Mornington Communication Limited for the Fiber to Donegal project application under the ICON program, and that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth direct the CAO to provide a letter of endorsement to Mornington Communication Cooperative Limited for the Fiber to Molesworth project application under the ICON program. And I think our proposed mover at this point is Councillor Rothwell. We're getting closer to you if you say yes.
I so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, would you second that?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that's carried. Thank you. That brings us to item 5.2 on our agenda. For item 5.2.1, Council is provided with a report from the County of Perth Planner, David Gundrum, that recommends that this council send a letter to the County of Perth Land Division Committee in support of an application for consent to sever related to property on Bell Crescent in Listowel. Mr. Gundrum with us tonight? I'll ask Mr. Gundrum to provide us with an overview of this request. David, welcome.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Mayor, members of council. The following applications for consent have been submitted to the County of Perth by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of H&J Dunnigan Holdings Incorporated. There's 4 applications that have been bundled together in this report for council's consideration. The applications propose to sever existing vacant industrial lands for the purpose of creating 2 industrial lot additions and 2 industrial lot creations within the Listowel ward. Applications B22 20 and B23-20 propose to sever a combined 0.23 hectares or 0.56 acres of land from separate unaddressed parcels that have frontage along Bell Crescent to be added to an adjacent industrial parcel located to the west of these properties having frontage along Rocker Road East. The lot to which the parcels proposed to be added to would have an area of approximately 3.18 hectares or 7.86 acres following the lot additions. The retained lot that would result from application B23 is proposed to be further severed by application B24 to create a new industrial lot that would have an area of 0.13 hectares or 0.33 acres with approximately 100 feet of frontage along Bell Crescent while retaining approximately 0.3 acres of industrial land. Lastly, application B25-20 proposes to create a new industrial lot that would have an area of approximately 0.4 hectares or 1 acre while retaining 0.22 hectares or 0.55 acres of industrial land with both severed and retained parcels having frontage along Bell Crescent. All lots that would result from the proposed consents are intended to be the site of future industrial development. All lands subject to the proposed consents are within Special Policy C of the Serviced Urban Area designation of the County of Perth official plan. This special policy area states that the predominant use of land in this area shall be for manufacturing, processing, warehousing, trades, servicing operations, and office uses accessory to industrial uses on the same lot, among other uses. All subject properties are within the light industrial zone M1-4 of the local zoning bylaw, which permits a variety of light industrial uses. The special provisions of this zone additionally permit commercial recreation uses, professional offices, and repair and service shops. The proposed consents would result in lots that maintain conformity with the local zoning bylaw with regard to minimum lot area and minimum lot frontage within the M1-4 zone for the majority of uses that are permitted by this zone. Specific to the lots proposed to be created, both severed and retained through the applications B24 and B25. All lots created by these 2 applications would not meet the minimum lot frontage and in some cases minimum lot area within their respective zone for the existing permitted uses of automobile service station and automobile gasoline bar, which are just 2 of among many uses permitted within this zone. Given the wider array of light industrial uses that would still be permitted through the existing zoning, should the lots as proposed be created, consistency with the County of Perth official plan would still be maintained with regard to permitted uses under Section 6 of the official plan and size requirements for new lot creation under Section 16 of the official plan. The creation of smaller industrial lots at the proposed locations via application B24 and B25 would also result in a more efficient use of land and resources as per the PPS, given the wider range of uses that would still be permitted based on resulting lot size and frontage. The proposed consents could result in a denser form of light industrial development than what may otherwise be currently possible, and also could result in greater potential to generate a wider range and mix of employment uses to meet long-term employment needs. In summary, the proposed consents have been found to be consistent with the provincial policy and are in general conformity with the County of Perth official plan. A public meeting to consider these applications will be considered at a future meeting of the County of Perth Land Division Committee should any concerns received during the circulation period be found to be unable to be resolved. Thank you, Council, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the applications. We are recommending that you recommend to County Land Division that application B22 and B23 be approved subject to 5 conditions in our report, and that B24 and B25 also be approved subject to 5 conditions in our report, which are slightly different than those for the preceding applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gundrum. Council, any questions about this matter? Are you seeing any indication of Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. Through to Planner David Gundrum. Has the applicant suggested any proposed new uses, or is this just an effort to try to entice, as you say, a broader range of uses to these currently vacant lots? Because the applicants themselves are the ones that originally planned for the lots that we see today, correct?
Through the mayor, Councillor Rothwell, that is correct. I would say that the latter statement that you mentioned is more correct in this case. The applicants haven't proposed anything highly specific through the consent applications for future development. I think this is an attempt, as you put it, to create lots that will entice a broader range of possible uses versus the existing lot fabric.
Thank you. I'm in favor.
We're not seeing any other with questions or comments, so I'll read this resolution. I apologize, it's like reading the phone book again. So here we go. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Applications for Consent to Sever, numbers B2220, B2320, B2420, and B2520 by Patterson Planning Consultants, Inc. on behalf of H&J Dunnigan Holdings, Inc., affecting lands described as blocks 2, 3, and 5, Plan 44M71, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, Bell Crescent, Listowel, dated August 10th, 2020, prepared by the County Planner for information. And that the County of the Municipality of North Perth recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee that the applications for consent to sever number B2220 and B2320 by Patterson Planning Consultants, Inc. on behalf of H&J Dunnigan Holdings, Inc., affecting lands described as blocks 2 and 3, Plan 44M71, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, Bell Crescent, Listowel, be approved, subject to the following conditions for each application. The confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all taxes have been paid in full. The confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all financial requirements have been met, if any. The confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that the apportionment schedule for municipal drains in this area be reviewed and updated if necessary to the satisfaction of the Municipality of North Perth in accordance with Section 65.1 of the Drainage Act RSO, and that the owner will be responsible for all costs associated with this reapportionment. That solicitor undertakings be received by the County of Perth Land Division Committee, which shall be to the effect severed parcel be added as a lot addition to the parcel indicated by the consent application, with received undertakings also satisfying applicable conditions concerning deeding in the same name. Application of section 50, subsection 3 or subsection 5 of the Planning Act and mortgage consolidation, and that a solicitor's undertaking be received by the County of Perth Land Division Committee, requiring that the transfers related to applications for consent B2220 and B2320 be registered concurrently. And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee that the applications for consent to sever number B2420 and B2520 by Patterson Planning Consultants Inc. on behalf of H&J Dunnigan Holdings affecting lands described as blocks 2 and 5, Plan 44M71, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, Bell Crescent Listowel be approved, subject to the following conditions for each application. First, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all taxes have been paid in full. Second, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all financial requirements have been met, if any. Third, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that the apportionment schedule for municipal drains in this area be reviewed and updated if necessary to the satisfaction of the Municipality of North Perth in accordance with Section 65.1 of the Drainage Act RSO, and that the owner will be responsible for all costs associated with this reapportionment. Fourth, that a solicitor's undertaking be received by the County of Perth Land Division Committee, requiring that transfers related to applications for consent B2420 and B2520 be registered concurrently, and following registration of the transfers related to applications for consent B2220 and B2320. And fifth, and finally, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that the severed and retained lots have been assigned separate new municipal addresses. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover?
Yes, Mayor Todd, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Just don't ask me to say it out again. Councillor Anstett, will you serve as our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate on that one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up is 5.2.2. Council is provided with a report from County of Perth Planner David Gundrum that recommends that this council send a letter to the County of Perth Land Division Committee in support of an application from the Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church for consent to sever property owned in Donegal by the Gerbers for the purposes of constructing a new parochial school. I'll ask Mr. Gundrum to provide us with an overview of this request. David.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Mayor, members of council, the following application for consent by Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church on behalf of the property owners proposes to sever approximately 1.4 hectares or 3.4 acres of vacant land from a farm property municipally addressed as 7021 Perth Road 147 to be applied as a lot addition for an existing institutional use found on an abutting property with municipal address of 5264 Perth Line 72. The subject property from which the lot addition is proposed to be severed from is primarily composed of farmland and contains a municipal drain along with a farm building cluster having a barn, 2 sheds, 2 grain bins, and a Quonset structure. The proposed retained farm lot would have an area of approximately 35 hectares or 86 acres following severance with frontage along both Perth Road 147 as well as Perth Line 72. The existing farm building cluster would continue on the retained farm lot. An existing public road access connecting to Perth Road 147 would be maintained for the building cluster following severance. The lands proposed to be severed through this application previously subject to County of Perth Official Plan Amendment number 183, which was considered and adopted by County Council on April 16th, 2020. The proposed severed parcel to be used as a lot addition is within the Special Policy Area E of the Agriculture Designation of the County of Perth Official Plan, which was established by OPA number 183, while the proposed retained farm farm lot is within the agriculture designation of the county official plan. As mentioned, OPA 183 established a new policy area within the agriculture designation of the County of Perth official plan to include provisions to allow for future severance of the subject land for the purpose of enlarging an abutting lot containing an existing institutional use, being a private school located within the hamlet of Donegal. OPA 183 also allowed for the establishment of open space uses, recreational uses, and stormwater management facilities accessory to this existing private school, with the intent that these accessory uses will support and the anticipated future expansion of the school and its student population. Consent application B2020 represents an implementation of the approval given by OPA 183. While the expansion of the existing school building footprints are not proposed to be located on the land subject to severance, the severed area has been identified as being required and necessary to facilitate infrastructure to support the proposed expansions within the existing property boundaries. Section 2341 of the provincial policy statement allows for lot creation in prime agricultural areas under a limited number of circumstances, one of which being for infrastructure where the proposed facility or corridor cannot be accommodated through the use of easements or rights of way. Concerning the noted PPS section, the lands proposed to be severed will contain supporting infrastructure for the proposed expansion of the existing institutional use in the form of stormwater management facilities, being a stormwater management pond. As the immediate area that contains these facilities will also serve to provide area for recreational and open space uses, scaled to the anticipated expansion of the school buildings, direct care and control for these services on the part of the property owners of the existing institutional use through ownership would be the more appropriate and preferred approach to eliminate potential for conflicts among future adjacent property owners. The proposed severance has been found to be consistent with the PPS and conforms to the County of Perth official plan as amended by OPA number 183. We are recommending that North Perth Council recommend to Land Division Committee that the application for consent B2020 be approved, subject to the 5 conditions contained in our report. The application for consent will be considered by County of Perth Land Division Committee should the County Planning Office receive any concerns during the circulation period which are unable to be resolved. Thank you, Council, and I'd be happy to answer questions concerning this application.
Thanks, Mr. Gundrum. Councillors, any questions or comments at this point before we consider a resolution? We're not seeing any indication of same, so I will read out another lengthy resolution. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Application for Consent to Sever number B2020 by MHBC Planning Limited on behalf of Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church affecting lands described as part of Lot 31, Concession 9, Elma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, 7057 Perth Road 147, dated August 10th, 2020, prepared by the County Planner for information, and that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee that the application for consent to sever number B2020 by MHBC Planning on behalf of Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church affecting lands described as part of Lot 31, Concession 9, Elma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, 7057 Perth Road 147 be approved, subject to the following conditions. First, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all taxes have been paid in full. Second, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all financial requirements have been met, if any. Third, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that the apportionment schedule for municipal drains in this area be reviewed and updated if necessary to the satisfaction of the Municipality of North Perth in accordance with Section 65.1 of the Drainage Act RSO, and that the owner will be responsible for all costs associated with this reapportionment. Fourth, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that an amendment to the Municipality of North Perth's implementing zoning bylaw has been adopted to permit open space uses, recreational uses, and a stormwater management facility on the severed parcel. And fifth, that solicitor undertakings be received by the County of Perth Land Division Committee, which shall be to the effect that the severed parcel be added as a lot addition to the abutting parcel described as part of Lot 31, Concession 9, Elma Ward, being parts 1 and 2 on 44R 4640, municipality of North Perth, currently owned by Donegal Mennonite Fellowship Church, with received undertakings also specifying applicable conditions concerning deeding in the same name, application of Section 50, subsection 3 or subsection 5 of the Planning Act, and mortgage consolidation. Can I call on Councillor Behrens to be our mover for that?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing no indication, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And that brings us to item 5.2.3. Council is provided with a report from the County of Perth Planner David Gundrum that recommends that this council send a letter to the County of Perth Land Division Committee in support of an application from Lone Oak Properties Limited for consent to sever property owned in Atwood. I'll ask Mr. Gundrum to provide us with an overview of this request. David.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Again, Mayor and members of council, the following applications for consent have been presented by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of Lone Oak Properties Limited, proposing to sever 2 new lots for residential development within the settlement area of Atwood in the Alma ward of the municipality of North Perth. Application B2620 proposes to sever a vacant parcel of land having an area of approximately 700 square meters or 0.17 acres for future residential development, approximately having 25 meters of frontage along an unopened road allowance, while application B2720 proposes to sever the vacant retained lot that would result from application B26 into one lot having approximately 700 square meters of area or 0.17 acres of area, with also having frontage onto an unopened road allowance, while retaining another residential lot having an area of approximately 800 square meters or 0.2 acres with frontage onto Fisher Avenue to the north. The subject property is designated as serviced urban settlement area residential in the County of Perth official plan. Applicable sections of the county official plan state that permitted uses within this designation shall include, but are not necessarily limited to single detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhouse dwellings, as well as apartment dwellings. As well, under Section 6 of the county official plan, there are guidelines that concern residential density, which state that a density range of 15 to 25 units per hectare should be used as a general guideline with regard to semi-detached and duplex dwellings. Section 6 of the county official plan also states that such dwelling types shall be encouraged to be developed in groups or clusters rather than in scattered form. The proposed applications would create new lots for residential development within the existing settlement area of Atwood, that would have access to full municipal services. All of the proposed lots that would be created via these applications would conform to the minimum requirements of the local zoning bylaw with regard to lot area and lot frontage, respectively, for the development of semi-detached dwellings on one lot within the R4 zone. As per zoning bylaw requirements, all proposed lots would be of sufficient size and frontage to accommodate either a single detached, semi-detached, duplex, or triplex dwelling, each on one lot. And in the case of the retained lot resulting from application B27, a fourplex dwelling on one lot as well. As stated by the applicants in their letter dated June 18th, 2020, contained on Schedule D of our report, the intent of the proposed severances are to facilitate future development of 3 semi-detached dwellings on the subject lands. Additional consent applications are anticipated to be submitted to the county in future for the purpose of further severing the subject lands to create parcels of land that would each contain 1 unit of a semi-detached dwelling on one lot following establishment of the proposed dwellings. The subject lands currently have frontage and public road access along Fisher Avenue, found along the northern boundary of the property. However, to ensure that proposed lots maintain consistency with the County of Perth official plan, a new public road must be created in this case. Under general circumstances, creation of new lots through severance that lack access and frontage onto an existing public road would be considered premature development, but given the requirements contained under Section 16 of the plan, to address this existing deficiency, the owners were granted permission by North Perth Council to pursue a development agreement with the local municipality that would ensure creation of a new public road to service the proposed lots. Recommended conditions of consent have been included to direct that an extension of Queen Street Atwood be constructed to municipal standards and that this new public road be open to service such that the proposed lots would be consistent with county official plan policy to facilitate future residential development. It is reasonable in this case to suggest that the required public works could be completed within 12 months from when a provisional consent may be granted. Given these timelines and the recent permissions that have been granted by local council to pursue the necessary development agreement to guide and direct construction of the new public road extension, the proposed development of the subject lands can be considered appropriate in this case at the present time. With regard to the provincial policy statement, the development proposal represented by these applications would result in a more efficient use of land and resources versus what may otherwise be achieved on the existing lot. Development of the subject property in the manner proposed represents a form of orderly and logical growth that would more efficiently leverage existing and future municipal infrastructure while facilitating build-out of an existing designated settlement area. The proposed severances have been found to be consistent with the PPS and are in general conformity with the County of Perth official plan. We are recommending that North Perth Council recommend to the Land Division Committee that the applications for severance B26-20 and B27-20 be approved, subject to the 5 conditions contained in our report for each application. These applications will be considered by County Land Division Committee at a future public meeting date, provided that in the case that any concerns raised by members of the public, agencies and or council remain unresolved following closure of the circulation period. And for council's information, and they are council is aware, there were 2 pieces of correspondence received from members of the public that were distributed to members of council prior to the meeting tonight. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of council may have and or answer any questions that council may have or concerns related to the concerns that have been put forth by members of the community at this time. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to council to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Gundrum. Councillors, do you have any questions or first comments before we get into resolution on this matter? Are we seeing any indication of that? Okay, so I have a resolution for our consideration. It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Applications for Consent to Sever numbers B2620, B2720, Patterson Planning Consultants Inc. on behalf of Lone Oak Properties Limited, affecting lands described as Lot 25, Plan 565, Elma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, Fisher Avenue, Atwood, dated August 10th, 2020, prepared by the County Planner for information. And that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee that the applications for consent to sever number B2620 and B2720 by Patterson Planning Consultants Inc. on behalf of Lone Oak Properties Limited, affecting lands described as Lot 25, Plan 565, Elma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, Fisher Avenue, Atwood, be approved, subject to the following conditions for each application. First, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all taxes have been paid in full. Second, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that all financial requirements have been met, if any. Third, that confirmation be received from the Municipality of North Perth that the apportionment schedule for municipal drains in this area be reviewed and updated if necessary to the satisfaction of the municipality of North Perth in accordance with section 65.1 of the Drainage Act RSO, and that the owner will be responsible for all costs associated with this reapportionment. Fourth, that confirmation be received from the municipality of North Perth that the owner of the subject lands has entered into an approved development agreement with the municipality of North Perth to construct and build an extension of Queen Street Atwood within lands described as Block 27, Plan 565, Elma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, according to local municipal standards, in order to provide legal frontage and public road access for both severed and retained lots. And fifth, that confirmation be received from the municipality of North Perth that the council of the municipality of North Perth has passed a bylaw confirming that the required extension of Queen Street Atwood, referred to in condition 4, has been opened as a public road. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Callum to serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll move that, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And I see Councillor Johnston is back. Councillor Johnston, will you serve as a seconder?
Yes, I would second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Clerk, do we have any indication of that? Okay, seeing none, let's have that vote. And we have, that's carried. Thank you. Next up, we have we have a break. Oh, yes, that's a wonderful idea. The mayor needs a bio break. The clerk has reminded the mayor that he needs a bio break. So let's come back to the table at 9:27. 5 minutes, folks. Okay, Council, if I can call you back to the virtual table. We are going to proceed to item 5.2.4 on our agenda. In this one, Council is asked to approve an application from Lone Oak Properties for the exemption of part lot control on lands owned in Atwood. And I'll call on North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz to provide us with an overview of this request. Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you.
You're popular.
Only a few more to go. So the applicant is seeking approval from North Perth Council to pass a bylaw which will effectively exempt the subject property from the part lot control provisions of the Ontario Planning Act. If exempted, the applicant will be permitted to establish 3 individual lots of record. Each will have 1 dwelling unit of a townhouse dwelling. The property is described as Block 3 of Registered Plan 44M51 in the Alma Ward, and is known as McCourt Place in Atwood, and currently consists of the townhouse dwelling which is built. Each lot has appropriate public road frontage along McCourt Place, and each have individual service connections to municipal servicing. An easement is also provided to accommodate a municipal drain extension with appropriate easements to provide access to the middle lot. The subject lands are zoned the residential 5-11 zone of the North Perth zoning bylaw. This zone permits a variety of residential uses, including the proposed dwelling. Each dwelling unit meets all other provisions and regulations of the North Perth zoning bylaw. The removal of part lot control to establish lot lines between 3 units of a townhouse dwelling is an accepted method of lot creation under the Planning Act. As such, it is staff's recommendation that Council approve the application by Lone Oak Properties. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Council, any questions or comments on this one? Fairfelds, do we have any indication of any questions? Okay. So I have a resolution for us, gratefully short. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application by Lone Oak Properties Limited, the exemption of part lot control on property described as Block 3 of Registered Plan number 44M51, Elmo Ward, McCourt Place, Atwood, Municipality of North Perth. If the proposed bylaw is adopted, it shall be forwarded to the County of Perth for approval. Can I call on Councillor Richardson to serve as our mover for that?
So moved.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, you serve as our seconder.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Clerk, are we good? All right, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And now we have a bylaw related to the same matter. The bylaw number 116-2020 being a bylaw to exempt from part lot control, introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed. That the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Any discussion or debate on that one? Seeing none, let's have that one. And that's carried. Thank you. Now, let's move to item 5.2.5. Council is asked to approve an extension of an expiry date for part lot control on lands on Crotch Street in Listowel. I'll ask North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz, I think for his, no, he's not his last performance yet, to provide us with an overview of this request. Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you. So the applicant is seeking an extension of the current exemption from part lot control provisions on the subject property. The purpose of the extension is to correct an error on title that was recently discovered. North Perth Council approved a previous application for an exemption on August 13th, 2018 to effectively create 2 individual lots of record, each containing 1 unit of a semi-detached dwelling. And this was on lands described as Lot 2 of Registered Plan 44M-41, which is located on Crotch Street West. If approved, the time period of the previous bylaw, which is bylaw 114/2018, will be extended until December 31st of this year, at which point the exemption will expire. The current expiry date is August 12, 2020. Section 57.4 of the Planning Act provides that the council of a local municipality may, at any time before the expiration of a bylaw under subsection 7, amend the bylaw to extend the time period specified for the expiration of the bylaw, and an approval under subsection 7.1 is not required. So as such, staff has no concern with the request for the extension of the current exemption from part lot control provisions, and therefore is recommending to this council to approve the extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments before we have two resolutions here? See, I'll read the first resolution that the Council of Municipal approve the extension of the expiry date of bylaw 114-2018 until December 31st, 2020, as requested, affecting lands and property described as Lot 2, Land 44M41, Listowel Ward, Crotch Street, Municipality of North Perth. Councillor Anstett, can I call on you to serve as mover?
Yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Behrens, will you second that?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that's carried. Next is the bylaw for this, the bylaw number 117-2020 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 114-2018 be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed. And that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Duncan to be a mover for that one?
I will move that.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Callum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one, Council? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that's carried. 5.26, Council is provided with a report from North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz pertaining to a request regarding M&K Land Inc. affecting a property that they currently own and in which they wish to enter into an agreement with the municipality. Sean, comments on this one?
Thank you. The property owner is proposing 2 new warehousing facilities, including an addition to the existing main office building, as well as within a new accessory building located near the southwest portion of the site. The subject property has a lot frontage of approximately 307 meters along Road 164, also known as Highway 23, and a total lot area of approximately 9.2 hectares or 23 acres. The subject property is within the agriculture designation of the County of Perth official plan. This designation permits activities normally associated with agriculture. The subject property is within the agricultural commercial industrial zone, or the ACM zone of the Perth zoning bylaw. The ACM zone permits several agriculturally related commercial and industrial uses, including the existing operation. The application complies with the zoning bylaw regulations and provisions as they pertain to the proposed permitted use. The municipality's chief building official, fire chief, public works, and North Perth planner have reviewed the site plan drawings as prepared by Weitzel Dice Engineering. The drawing contains the information required for a complete review and can serve as the basis for an updated site plan agreement. Adequate parking, access, fire protection, lot grading, and drainage are provided for the expansion as shown on the site plan. It is staff's recommendation that the council approve the site plan application as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any comments or questions about this one? Okay, we're not seeing any indication of that, so we have two resolutions for this one. First, the general one, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approved site plan application SPO 4-2020 submitted by M&K Land Inc. affecting property described as Block 25, Concession 4, 8596 Road 164, Wallace Ward. And that Council proceed with the bylaw authorizing the mayor or clerk to enter into a new site plan agreement and have it registered on title of the subject property. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, Council? Seeing none, let's have that vote. That is carried. Further to this matter, the bylaw number 115-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a site plan agreement with M&K Land Inc. be introduced, read, and considered read first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. And said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Rothwell, could I call on you to serve as mover for that one?
I so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you serve as our seconder for that one? Councillor Seiler, are you on mute?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And finally, for item 5.2, we have item 5.2.7, in which council is asked to accept a tree management plan submitted related to the Terrier subdivision and mandate the development of a tree enhancement plan as a required schedule in the subdivision agreement. I'll ask Mr. Yilmaz to provide us with an overview of this request. Sean.
Thank you. Staff are in receipt of an arborist report prepared by Greg Johnstone of MHBC Planning, which has been prepared to provide an update to a previously submitted tree management plan, also prepared by MHBC Planning. The tree management plan has been submitted in support of the proposed development located on the east side of Victoria Avenue South. This site has been draft approved under subdivision file NP 10-01 for residential development consisting of approximately 25 to 49 dwelling units. The tree management plan is a condition for final approval of the plan of subdivision as required by North Perth Council. The tree management plan was prepared in 2013 and has been resubmitted for approval in an effort to move forward with the development of the subject lands, which has sat dormant for several years. Staff has reviewed the arborist report in relation to the associated tree management plan, and staff concurs with the findings of the report and the recommendations. Staff is of the opinion that the tree management plan is sufficient and satisfies the condition imposed on North Perth Council, imposed by North Perth Council. As per the arborist report, staff recommends that the property owner have a tree enhancement plan prepared and included as part of the subdivision agreement. The tree enhancement plan shall identify all trees to be retained, as well as identify any trees introduced as part of the residential development. This will also require a monitoring and maintenance program to help ensure that any trees impacted are properly maintained, as well as account for the newly planted material. A deposit in the amount that is still to be determined will also be held with the municipality and will be returned following the monitoring and maintenance program and demonstrated in compliance with the tree enhancement plan. If trees that are noted to be preserved are removed and or damaged during the construction or during the monitoring and maintenance program, the developer will be required to replace these trees as per the tree enhancement plan. Staff is recommending that this council accept the tree management plan prepared by MHBC Planning. And I believe the author of the arborist report is also here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. Councillors, any questions or first comments on this?
Mayor Todd,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, okay, after hearing these comments, kind of disturbing, but I am going to declare conflict of interest on this decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please take a note for the minutes that the deputy mayor has indicated he may have a conflict of interest and has withdrawn from the discussion and debate and vote. Clerk Beerfeld, Councillor Behrens, did you wish to comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Todd. I just wanted to Sean, what our policy is. I'm obviously people who know this lot know that it's well treed. A little bit disappointed that they resubmitted a plan that was done a number of years ago. Years have passed and trees have changed, type of thing. And I know that they tried to update it. And having read the full report, it's still a bit concerning that in the tree enhancement plan, we're not talking about any replacement of trees that need to be torn down in order to do the construction. And I know that, or I don't think that North Perth has a policy where if you remove 10 trees, in order to put in a subdivision that, you know, you need to replace those 3 to 1 or whatever. I don't believe we have that policy, but I just wanted to hear planner Sean's comments on that.
Sorry, did you want my comments on the current policy for the replacement, or just in general on the on what is within the report?
Do we have a policy on the replacement of trees when trees are destroyed in order to construct a subdivision?
I don't know off the top of my head if we have anything that's a 1-for-1 replacement. I will need to get back to you on that. I do apologize.
So, so the clerk is giving me advice in the chambers that Mr. Couch is on the line and CAO Snell is on the line. And then they may have some familiarity, but the clerk is not sure that she can answer the question either. Lyndon or Chris, do you have any comments on this one? Do you know the answer to the question about policy with regards to tree replacement when trees are removed?
Yeah, I can answer that. We do not have a formal policy at present. Council will recall when this was approved from the members of council at the time, this area was a bit of a concern because it was well treated, but this was one of the subdivisions that we did require an arborist report, which even that's not usually required. But just with the public process at the time, that was felt to be a prudent step in this case. As council will be aware, the county tree bylaw does not protect trees inside a development area, which obviously this parcel falls into the development settlement of North Perth. And just a general comment, some of the, even though this is a well-treated area, some of the trees are not necessarily desirable species, but hopefully with the tree enhancement plan, we can put in some more desirable species for our area of North Perth.
Okay, thank you, CEO Snell. Just let me ask, Councillor Behrens, do you have any follow-up? Okay.
A question, and I understand that the County of Perth forestry bylaw does not protect construction lots, but that doesn't mean that North Perth can't develop a policy in the future. This was a very contentious issue back when the original approvals were given, and there was a lot of talk about the replacement, realizing that trees needed to be torn down, but there was a lot of talk about the replacement of trees that, and we had talked about the 3-to-1 ratio, which I believe is what most of the Public Works uses, both at the county level and the lower tiers. I'm just asking if at some point in time in the future, because the tree enhancement plan doesn't really speak to, it speaks to if trees are damaged or have to be removed. It doesn't really speak to replacement of trees.
Thank you, Mr. Behrens. I think it's a good point. I'm going to direct, I guess the arborist is with us, so let me, question that I have, just so that I understand. Mr. Jones? Johnston. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was a long report and there was a lot of detail in it, which I think most of us struggle to understand some of the key points. Based on the current coverage, if that's a fair question, of that area, that zoning or that zoned area, what proportion of trees need to be removed for the development to be accomplished according to the plan?
I think according to the plan, I don't know an exact percentage, but the intent is, with the restrictions on the site, and I think through previous conversation, was that the area to be retained is the strip along the rear of the existing residential, where there's a path that cuts through.
Okay, is that an east-west?
North.
To the north end of this,
yeah.
An east-west traversing a tree line?
Yeah, so it's area B, the drawing.
Okay, I'm struggling to see the drawing well at this point. Okay, so, I mean, I'm struggling to formulate my questions because certainly not an expert here at all. But it seems like your report suggests that a significant number of trees will be coming out of that area to achieve the outcomes desired by the developers. Is that a fair statement? More than half?
Yeah, I think there's some other previous requirements that were mentioned. Like there's the buffer that runs along the frontage of Spinray. And I think requirement there was a berm. So in order to put a berm in there to separate the property and view to the factory, you'd have to remove all those trees. And the site is actually a little bit lower in the end by area A, which is to the west. So in order to build the site, you're going to have to bring that grade up, which is going to eliminate the best of the tree.
Okay, so I guess my question seems like it's been answered, which is there will be a significant removal of trees from this area of Flispool in the process of preparing this site for development. Is that a reasonable conclusion? Have I drawn the right conclusion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors expressing questions or comments?
This is Deputy Mayor Kellogg, and I'm allowed to speak, even though I declared this is a poop show. This guy or whoever, they have to get everything in order. It is just not going to happen. You know, you can say you're going to put your trees and take out trees, but it's not going to happen the right way. I'm sorry, but until you can come down to council and prove to us what is good the development is, I can't, but the rest of the council has to prove. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Good night.
Councillor Seiler.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I guess my question was similar to what Julie brought up. My concern on this whole project is to make sure that we do it right, and I'd like to know who's going to be monitoring it on what's being taken out. And I did read in the report that there's going to be some trees replaced as a new development happens. So it'd be nice to know what going to be replaced, how many, and I'd like to keep track of what is being taken out. And I know there is some trees in there that need to be taken out, but it needs to be monitored from the word go. And I just like to know who's going to be the official. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. CAO Snell, did you want to add some comments to this? We can't hear you, Chris.
Sorry. Certainly there's been a long history to the development of this property. Originally back, council did approve the proceeding with this development, but there was an appeal received, and this was scheduled for an OMB hearing. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was this was the negotiated settlement that we would have a tree or an arborist report submitted, and we would try and save as many trees as we could, but the developer would create a plan to replace as many trees as we could through the process. And that is still our intent, to make sure that both this report and the tree enhancement report are followed. And as Planner Yilmaz has said, this will be part of the binding subdivision agreement coming forward when we do that process with the developer. And up into including, as mentioned by the Yilmaz, we will be taking a deposit down to make sure that all those pieces of the development agreement are followed through on.
Thanks, CAO Snell. What I don't understand here, though, the comments you just made, is that I think, per your own comments and those from Councillor Behrens, who has some history with this file, and Councillor Tyler as well, that we don't actually have a policy. So in terms of what a tree enhancement plan looks like, there's no guidance from council to tell or give any indication as to what kind of tree density should be achieved, what kind of outcomes or in terms of managing this development of this plan. That we're sort of leaving the plan into the hands of an expert who may or may not represent or reflect council's general interest, albeit the fact council doesn't have a formal policy at this point on the books. But it does sound like, and Councillor Behrens or Councillor Simon confirm this, that these kind of discussions came early in the life of this subdivision, and the council found it a contentious issue from what I heard.
And that's correct. Sorry, and that's correct. But we can also, in the meantime, as Council mentioned by Councilor Behrens, we can create a plan. She's right. We do have our own internal policies on what happens when we replace trees. We do have tree requirements in our subdivision agreements and our development agreements right now. So we do require a certain amount of tree frontage or street frontage to be planted by the developer on all our subdivisions. But that's the extent of our policy to date.
Right. So we're left in a little bit of a vacuum in that there is some behaviors that we've asked for in subdivision agreements, but that we don't actually have a formal policy that gives direction to a professional who would prepare a tree enhancement plan to address things like density, unless we decide as a council at this point for this project to instruct appropriate replacement ratio density. Does that seem right to you, CAO Snell? Am I stating the facts reasonably?
Yeah, that's more or less correct. And as I said before, up until now, the county forest or tree bylaw has not protected anything within any of the settlement areas. So up until this date, we haven't even required this much planning to go into our tree areas that have been removed. As council remember, when the Activa subdivision was developed up by the golf course, there was a number of trees removed in that subdivision. It's something that's been sort of a long-standing issue that the county tree bylaw does not protect trees within development areas, but that doesn't mean North Perth could not create its own policy if that was the desire of council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duncan, I think, is next.
I just kind of have a question here then. Is there potential that we could see the tree enhancement plan before we sign the subdivision agreement?
I would think that would be the expectation, Councillor Deb.
Yeah, the subdivision agreements come to council before signing, so you would see it prior to it being signed.
Right. Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. I appreciate the comments here. This is a long-standing issue and right in the heart of the community to the north, south, and west are all residential units. So clearly these are issues of concern that were expressed when this application first came forward. What I have not heard staff say, and perhaps I missed this, is the question that was asked by Councillor Seiler, who's actually going to, from the municipality, is going to ensure whatever plan is going to be approved is adhered to? Is there a specific staff person that's going to be retained, or is it going to be a third party that will be paid for by the developer that's going to confirm that whatever tree enhancement plan is approved by council is in fact complied with? That's my first question.
I can jump in on that one myself, actually. I'm worried. I see why you're looking down that road, but I worry that that question is premature against the motion that we have before us, which is about allowing the enhancement of a tree or creation of a tree enhancement plan. So in terms of enforcement of that, I think we wouldn't act on that until we see what the council actually approves it. I'm open to comments from staff if anyone wants to weigh in on that. You got anything?
So much like when engineered or servicing plans are submitted to the municipality, if we don't have or feel we have the in-house expertise to review those plans, they are sent out to third-party review. So an engineer, for example, reviews our street servicing plans, and so if we don't feel that we would have even the proper in-house expertise to review the tree plan, we would have that reviewed by a third party, and that would be at the expense of the developer. And also all our subdivisions are inspected as they proceed, so that could either be done by staff or a third party, depending on whether we have the in-house expertise.
Okay, so down the road, when we actually have a plan that we can enforce, then there probably are a few mechanisms, and we would define those at that point in time. Is that fair, CAO Snow?
Yeah, that's fair. And if we even felt that the tree conservation plan needed to be reviewed, we could also do that at the time as well.
Okay, thank you.
Prior for it to come to council.
Second question.
Yeah, my second question is this, is that clearly a lot of time has elapsed since we actually gave public notification and this decision was reached on this property. And I'm wondering, is our municipality, are we going to inform members of the public as we move forward as to what this this plan actually is like in terms of a specific notification around the property, or at least those that meet the objection, or are we just going to do this on our own? I'm going to suggest that we come up with at least a public information session on this. It's not a situation that I believe that we could see any appeals off to the Ontario Land Appeal Tribunal or anything like that. However, I think it's important, given the magnitude of that was expressed by the neighborhood, that we might want to at least inform the public about what's happening in terms of this proposed tree plan for the subdivision.
I sat through the other meeting.
Okay, so Councillor Rothwell, the clerk advises me that you are correct to her understanding that there is no sort of formal mandate to inform or whatever, but certainly that would be something that is included. Should that be the will of council to have a consultation or to inform about procedures and are moving forward with this, depending on what our decisions are. So that's fair. Anyone else want to on this one? Thanks.
Hello, Mayor Todd. Like Councillor Rothwell said, absolutely. There are 3 or 4 or 5 people on that guideline that they think they have that. So they need to be advised what the heck is going on. You know, don't catch them off guard. Don't throw them a hard dart, and let's inform them what's going on.
Okay. Thank you. We'll need to come up with a plan, I think, with regards to communication around this issue at the very least. As you know, Council, the resolution that has been proposed to us is that we accept the current tree management plan that has been prepared, and that we further that we encourage, or not encourage, mandate, I can find the word, require the preparation of a tree enhancement plan as recommended in that report, and that this wind up being in the subdivision agreement. Is there anyone who would choose to pursue a different course at this point? Okay, well, let's put the resolution on the floor and then see what happens here. So I'm going to read this resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accept the tree management plan prepared by MHBC Planning and submitted by 2459825 Ontario Inc. And further, that a qualified professional prepare a tree enhancement plan as recommended in the report and included as a schedule within the subdivision agreement. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for that?
Hi, Mayor Todd. Actually, I think that resolution does speak to the direction that we want to take, probably with some more provisions. So I would move that.
Okay. And Councillor Anstedt, would you serve as seconder for that?
Yes, I will.
Okay. So Councillor Andreessen and certainly others at the council discussion and questions before this have suggested that maybe there are some enhancements or augmentations to this resolution. Leanne, do you have any specific ideas about what you're thinking there? Like, did you want to change the materially the text of this resolution?
I'm mad.
It seems that there has been a lot of discussion over this issue that there perhaps should be some additional wording. I don't have any recommendations for that wording at the moment, but it seems to me that perhaps we should be considering that.
I'll reach out to Councillor Behrens. Councillor Behrens, earlier you talked about the issue of a replacement ratio. Did you have comments that you wanted to have considered in this resolution or not?
Mayor Todd, I think it's very difficult to kind of set council policy as to what we'd like to see while we're trying to move planning applications forward. I don't know if it's possible to defer this motion for 1 week and maybe let Chris and Lyndon and Sean have conversation with the arborist or the applicant to come to some sort of agreement or resolution. As it currently stands, this resolution, I will be voting against it because I simply, and it's not necessarily the applicant's fault, but for all the years that have passed, we still don't have a policy in place to give guidance, I think is an issue. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that's helpful. So we have a resolution on the floor. Any discussion or debate? Do you see anything, Pat? Councillor Richardson, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, thank you. I have to concur that we have had enough time to incorporate some replacement policies to do that, and I do believe in ultimately it would be fair to the developer as well to have those listed as a guideline first, front and center first, because right now it's sort of like it's almost like a secondary approach at this point in time, but we certainly need to incorporate, especially given that wooded area and given its proximity in any other wooded area within a developed area. We do need to, like, whether it be a tree enhancement plan and a tree enhancement and a replacement plan, but we do need to look at that. I would be if it's possible to defer this for a week to let those conversations take place between the applicant and Chris and the arborist to see if we can't come up there and actually give a bit of guidance, because right now it's a little lacking. But I would certainly like to see that come forward and try and get the best possible resolution to this as we possibly can. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. The clerk is giving some advice here. Maybe I'll ask her to weigh in on it because I think she has a potential path that might be helpful unless council would prefer to move to a vote on this matter. But I think the clerk has some procedural suggestion at this point. Anyone on council object to the clerk being heard about a procedural suggestion? Okay, I'm going to turn off my microphone for a minute so we don't create nasty feedback and pack away and hold on.
And council, this is definitely council decision, but just a suggestion is that we defer this decision tonight in regards to the acceptance of this tree report and bring back something for council consideration next week in consultation with the CAO and the planner, and something to include the fact that we're going to accept a report as well as how you're going to move forward with the management plan and the conditions that might be set with it. I think staff needs some time to further think about all the things that have been brought to the table tonight.
I'm so good at that.
I don't have the actual text. I'm not sure that I'm spry enough to get the actual text. So we just need a deferral. Council, but we have to go to the mover and seconder because we're proposing an amendment here to this. Should we actually go through the process of amendment and ask for mover and seconder on an amendment to this?
I would support the
It's
deferral
on the
of
floor,
the mover.
right?
Leanne was willing to.
Okay, so,
I'll
so
support
let's
the
go to the mover
deferral.
and seconder and see whether they're willing to entertain the approach of deferring this for further action by staff related to the preparation of the tree enhancement plan.
Yes, I support
Are you okay
the
with
deferral.
a change to the text of this resolution that would create a deferral?
Yes, I support the deferral for sure.
I would as well, Mayor Kasenberg.
My audio is off. Hold on. So Councillor Andreessen has agreed. Councillor Anstett, you were the seconder. Are you okay with the deferral so that staff has an opportunity to evaluate this?
Yes, I would support a deferral. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the motion now reads: the Council of Municipality of North Perth defers acceptance of the tree management plan and submit, and further that more work by staff in collaboration with the applicants, something like that, be undertaken around the preparation of a tree enhancement plan. Sound roughly okay to you, Councillor Andreessen?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, and Neil, you're okay with that too?
Yep, that sounds fine.
Okay, council, any discussion or debate further to this matter? Okay, we're going to put this to a vote then. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up then is item 5.3. We're moving to agenda item 5.3, and we have item 5.3.1, wherein council is asked to proceed with permission to tender for ice resurfacers for various rink facilities. I'll ask our interim manager of recreation, Amy Gangle, to address this matter. Amy, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So currently there's a 10 to 12 months build time for ice resurfacer machines. During the 2020 capital budget process, we identified that we would bring some information to council for their approval. of tendering in 2020 for the purchase and delivery in 2021. Battery technology in the provision of the recreational services is expected to continue to expand as facility operators strive towards safe indoor air requirements while reducing fossil fuel use. With the current environmental and greenhouse gas emission issues becoming more prevalent in our society, the staff made some comparisons between propane-powered and electric-powered surfaces, and that is part of this report here. What we are recommending is that we proceed with the tender process for 2 ice resurfacers, but for pricing for both electric and for propane to get a full comparison from the providers themselves. And then we would present those results to council for direction.
Thanks, Ms. Gangle. Council, any questions or first comments on this matter? Clerk Fairfield, anything? Okay, so I have a resolution for our consideration that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled 2021 Recreational Capital for Ice Resurfacers dated August 10th, 2020, and that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth proceed with a tender for 2 ice resurfacers with pricing both propane and electric power in 2020 for purchase and delivery in 2021. Can I call on Councillor Behrens to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I will move that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Duncan?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. That brings us to item 5.4, reports from the Treasury and Finance Department. As item 5.4.1, staff has brought forward to council a review of accounts as of August 10th, 2020. I'll note that some councillors have declared a potential pecuniary interest in this item and will absent themselves from consideration and voting. Are there any questions about this matter for our staff from remaining councillors? Fairfield, anything? Thank you. Then I have a resolution for our consideration that is as follows: that the following summary of accounts be received by council for information. The total on the bottom line is $1,403,346.07. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to be our mover for that?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, would you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing no indication of that, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's turn to item, we have no report from our Manager of Environmental Services tonight, which takes us to item 5.6, and in particular 5.6.1. Let's start with that. In this one, council is asked to proceed with the request for improvement of the Burnett Municipal Drain. I will ask Lyndon Couch, our Manager of Operations, for brief comments on this matter. Lyndon.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. The Burnett Drain is identified graphically for you by the Drainage Superintendent. This report relates to the maintenance of the drain under Section 78, and the recommendation is to move forward with the request and the improvement for the Burnett Municipal Drain.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Johnston declared and Councillor Rothbell, both of them. Okay, so we'll take note that those two councillors are absenting themselves from this discussion. At this time, councillors, any questions or comments? First comments for Mr. Couch on this matter. Okay, seeing none, the resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act, proceed with the request for improvement of the Burnett Municipal Drain. And I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for this one.
I will move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. For item 5.6.2, council is asked to proceed with the abandonment of a portion of the Silver Corners extension drain. Again, I'll call on Manager of Operations Lyndon Couch to address this briefly. Lyndon, tell us about this one.
Yes, the Silver Corners drain is entirely owned by a single owner, and that includes the catchment area or the watershed. And because of that, it is being looked at as for abandonment and to be turned into a private drain. Again, it's because of the single ownership. The recommendation is to abandon.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments on this matter? All right, I have a resolution before us for consideration. It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, in accordance with Section 84 Drainage Act, proceed with the abandonment of a portion of the Silver Corners extension drain. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover for that? Yeah.
Yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. And can I call on Councillor Anstett as our second?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Okay, let's have that vote. Something odd. Can you tell me when it's carried? Okay, that's carried. Council, the clerks have advised that they need to insert a resolution relating to the passing of a bylaw for this matter. And so we're just waiting for a moment for Deputy Clerk Beer to catch up with that. So hold on for one moment. At an earlier hour, I'd be happy to sing a song for you, but I'm not sure that my voice is qualified for this hour. Nor am I sure which genre council would appreciate. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Where is it? Okay, so we're going to consider bylaw number 114-2020, being a bylaw for the abandonment of a portion of the Silver Corners municipal drain to be introduced, read first and second, do we give two? And third time, and be finally passed and signed by the mayor, the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Wow, I remembered that. I'm impressed. All right, can I call on Councillor Behrens as our mover for that one?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our seconder for that?
I certainly will.
All right. Well, that was fascinating improv. The council got to watch improv theater at its best here. All right. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to 5.6.3. Council is asked to proceed with the request for improvement of the McCracken municipal drain and to appoint an engineer. I'll ask Lyndon Couch again, our manager of operations, to address this matter.
Thank you. The McCracken drain lies in the urban area of the town of Listowel, and it's inside the stormwater levy area. The municipality is taking a lead in the maintenance of this drain and is asking under Section 78 to maintain it. We've moved forward with surveying and some preliminary pre-engineering work on the drain, trying to expedite the process. We are also asking to appoint Sprite Engineering as the engineer for the works and to move forward with the drain cleaning.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I have a resolution for us that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act, proceed with the request for improvement of the McCracken Municipal Drain, and further that the Municipality of North Perth appoints Wright Engineering and Associates to investigate the improvements required for the McCracken Municipal Drain. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Kellum to serve as our mover for that? Mayor Kellum, are you with us? See, having some technical difficulties again, maybe. Okay, let's try Councillor Johnston. Will you serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our second?
I will be happy to second that.
Thank you. Discussion or debate, Council? Any indication of that, Clerk Fairfax? Okay.
Sorry,
Councillor Seiler, did you want to weigh in on this one?
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Mayor Todd. Lyndon, my question is, this drain with our new cemetery up there, the creek that runs beside, well, this will probably give us better drainage on that property of our cemetery property, the whole 30 acres going through that bush and whatnot.
I apologize. I'd have to look at the watersheds for the two drains, whether it impacts that. This is adjacent to the golf course, and the golf course and the old landfill site lie between us and that area. So I'm not sure if it has any impact, but it'll certainly improve the drainage for the area we're speaking of around Emerald Green subdivision, and certainly behind the Catholic Church in that area that it serves for today.
We can hear you, Terry. You're on mute, Terry.
Okay, thank you, Lyndon. But I just was understanding that the McCracken drain did go across the side road there through our property.
I think that's the Seaman drain, Terry. That runs from the landfill site across to the new cemetery property, not the McCracken.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other discussion or debate questions? And this duly moved and seconded, I believe. Let's have the vote. Councillor Duncan, we're not receiving your vote. What say you? Oh, it just came in. Thank you. Okay, so that's carried. Item 5.6.4, council is asked to award the tender for improvements to the Danbrook A and B drains following a recommendation from its engineer on this project, Sprite Engineering, to the company AG Hater Contracting Limited. Again, let's hear from Mr. Couch, our manager of operations on this matter. Lyndon.
Thank you. As outlined in the report, in conjunction with the purchasing assistant, the lowest bid showing at 196,780 was invalid. There was an error in their entry. The second bid is being recommended for AG Hater, is already read and fits within budget and is in front of you tonight for recommendation to award.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions or comments about this? Seeing none, I'll put the resolution for consideration that Council of the Municipality of North Perth award the tender for the work on the Danbrook A and B drains as per the recommendation from Sprite Engineering and Associates to AG Hater Contracting Limited in the amount of $205,517, HST excluded. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to serve as our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you serve as our seconder?
I will second it.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that is carried as well. Thank you, Council. We've gotten through a lot of fives here. We have no indication of a report from our fire chief as item 5.7, which allows us to turn to agenda item 6. For item 6.1, councilors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or our committees? To request an opportunity to speak, please so indicate in the chat function of the web conferencing tool. Else, do we have any indication tonight? Okay, we're going to move on then. For item 7, we have received no items of correspondence beyond what may have been shared under our consent agenda for council's disposition. That brings us to item number 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider and enact bylaws. Turning to item 8.1, council is asked to enact bylaw number 118-2020, which authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement for the provision of internet services at the Moncton Library and Child Care Center with Mornington Communications Cooperative Limited. Ms. Bearfeld, any comments before we move forward with this? Let me just set it up for you here. Rather exciting.
Council, as you may or may not know, the Mornington Communications has provided the internet to the Alma Logan Rec Complex for several years now. And as we've moved forward with our construction, we've been approached by Mornington to have the ability to provide us with the ability for internet services and the Wi-Fi solution that we need for the Child Care Center at no cost. And part of the mutual agreement, as you'll note, is the ability to provide proper signage and advertisement for Mornington Communications. And Rebecca and myself have been working with the representative and found a very satisfying location for that signage. So we're happy to be able to present this arrangement tonight.
Thank you, Clerk Perfeld. Any questions or general comments on this matter? Nothing showing. All right, we have a resolution, a bylaw resolution that reads as follows: that bylaw number 118-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement with Mornington Communications Cooperative Limited, be introduced, read and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. And the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for that one?
I'd be happy to move that, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstead, will you second that?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Council, any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing no expression of interest in that, let's have the vote. And that's carried. Thank you. That moves us to agenda item 9. Are there any notices of motion from councillors attending this evening? Please indicate as appropriate. Bearfelds, anything? No. Okay. Brings us to agenda item number 10. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? If you'd like to speak, please so indicate in the chat window. No indication of that. Okay, that moves us to item 11. We have no matters for consideration in a closed session meeting of council this evening. For item 12, then, we have nothing to report from a closed session, which brings us to item 13. This is the confirmatory bylaw. Council has mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the confirmatory bylaw. I have the draft that reads as follows: that bylaw number 119-2020 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed. And that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Behrens to move that?
Actually, Your Worship, I think I'll pass since I have a conflict.
You're right. Thank you so much. Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our mover?
I most certainly will.
Thank you. And I think Councillor Richardson will be the next one on the list.
I would be happy to second that.
All right, and I think we're expecting 6 voters instead of 10. All right, any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that's 6, so that's carried. Thank you. That brings us to our adjournment point. Councillors, we've completed all the deliberations that were put before us, taken action on the business that came before us tonight as well. Before I read a motion to adjourn, is there any further business? Seeing no indication of same, I have a motion to adjourn that reads as follows. That the council meeting adjourns at 10:33 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, August 17th, 2020 at 7 p.m. I'll turn back to Councillor Behrens. Will you serve as our mover for that?
I would gladly move that. Thank you, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder? We're not getting any sound. Deputy Mayor Kellum, are you? We're not hearing you. Okay. Should I move on down my list? Oh, so we're just not hearing him. Okay. Let's go to Councillor Johnston. Will you second the motion to adjourn?
Yes, one Leaf fan will cover for another sad one that's too sad to even reply. So I will cover that for Deputy Mayor Kellum, and I will second that motion.
You poor boys. Okay. Let's move to the vote. And that is carried. Council, we are adjourned until our next meeting, Monday, August 17th. Meeting. Good night, all.